Welcome to the budget work session for the Village of Holly on Saturday, April 18th, 2026 at 9 a.m. Clerk, can you do the roll call, please?
Sure. Weinbrenner?
Here.
Wendell?
Here.
Ryan?
Here.
Pascoe?
Here.
Cole? Here. Kyer? Here. Brandon?
Here, we have a quorum. The purpose of these budget study work sessions is to collaboratively review, analyze, and discuss the proposed budget allocations for the upcoming fiscal year. We aim to ensure financial transparency, engage community stakeholders, and align our financial resources with the village's strategic priorities and community needs. Through these sessions, we seek to foster informed decision-making, promote fiscal responsibility, and identify areas for potential improvement and efficiency within our budgetary framework. No items will be voted on during these sessions. The 25-26 financial activity presented during these sessions were current as of April 16th, 2026. Any courses of action discussed during these sessions are only for consideration and will only be adopted when voted on during a regular meeting or during budget adoption. We'll start with public comment. Members of the public can address council once recognized by the chair. Comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Prior to addressing council, please state your name and address for the record. Looking at the public. All 4 of them. Hearing none, seeing none. Tim, the floor is yours.
Oh, great. Good morning. Happy Saturday again. Actually, before we even begin budget stuff, I just wanted to, I was going to ask Jeremy to give like just a 2-minute quick update on Hawaiian Gardens and all the stuff going on over there. Just because I know we've got a lot of questions about it, so target of opportunity.
Good morning, Council. As you know, staff has been out there pretty much all week trying to mitigate the flooding out at both of the Sun communities. I did a roll through this morning and I was floored at the amount of water that's receded. They've had 6-inch pumps going for the last probably 36 hours. And all roads are accessible at this time. So we still have 2 families that are displaced. Sun Communities is put them up in a motel and covering their food costs until further notice. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions or comments or concerns that you have on it.
Jeremy, is this just Hawaiian or is it the other one too?
It's both. The village, Holly Village suffered, I believe, the most damage or had the most complications. But as of 7 o'clock this morning, all roads were passable, all structures were secure, other than the 2 that we had the evacuations at. But very impressed at the pace, the speed, and the willingness to work with administration from Sun Communities.
And they're also assuring us that they're taking care of the people that get displaced. They're, making sure they have housing and food and all the things they need. So, as far as we know, they've been doing a good job taking care of their people. At least as what's communicated to us.
And they have the pumps until Wednesday, and if needed, they'll increase that rental. Looking at the forecast, we don't have anything. After we get through about 11 o'clock this morning, it looks like the rain's going to dissipate and we'll get a good 3 to 5 days of drying. So fingers crossed, we're excited about that. As we all know, the village is already wet in general.
Jeremy, did they find out what actually caused the problems in each park?
I would assume,
Rainfall.
Yeah, we're,
Blanketed information.
For being April 18th, we're already double the amount of rainfall that we receive on an average. And the infrastructure's approaching, 50 plus years old. So there was nothing that we could do right at that moment in time, but we did give them an extensive timeline and expectations moving forward. They assured us they're going to be cameraing their systems, finding out where they have some infrastructure failures, and then they're going to provide a plan of replacement. So
Danny's been out there a lot looking at because they haven't some of their infrastructure, their maps stuff they hadn't even seen before. So Danny was out there kind of walking them through it, saying, hey, you have an inlet in the pond here, make sure you're raking that out and getting that cleared out. We had the the railroad out there, looking at their culverts, making sure those were all cleared. The road commission came out and cleaned out some of the culverts as well to make sure that, that it was flowing properly. And so I think that we've definitely probably made more headway in the last week than has been done in 10, 15 years out there as far as making sure that we address future problems too. So.
I have two questions. You said, Jeremy, we've received double the rainfall average already by April 18th. Do you mean double the average of rainfall we received annually or by April 18th?
Just monthly, just for the month of
Just for the
April,
month of
we
April,
average
okay.
about 2.5 inches of rain in April. We're already over 4.5 inches.
And then are there any residents without power because of the flood?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
Not due to flooding anyway.
okay, sure, yeah.
So just one point of clarification for anyone listening, you said Danny, Manager Price, Danny
Yep,
is the
utilities director.
utilities director,
Yeah.
perfect. And where is the water actually going?
So there's some ditches along the railroad that it's going to, and then they are pumping it to the north side of Quick Road, which is also owned by Sun Communities. So they're discharging their water onto a low-lying site that is on their property.
So we're not just, so it's all going to their property or where it's supposed to be going, we're not dumping it somewhere.
No.
That's correct.
That is something that we've talked about a lot, is like, hey, I want to make sure that, you know, as we're solving one problem, we're not creating them elsewhere. So the water, you know, the water has to go somewhere. And so we wanted to be very careful about that as well.
Yesterday, about 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock, Oakland County Road Commission was out at Grange Hall. They opened the culvert from Moaloa Lake to get into Bevins Lake. Bevins Lake, according to Danny, was a couple feet lower than a Moaloa. So once they got that culvert open, I mean, it was a mass flow of water going into Bevins Lake. And then Bevins Lake will be controlled through Oakland County Water Resource Commission. That goes into the tributaries of the Shiawassee. So
If you look at our water overlay on, for the village, you can see that, you know,
I think it's Bush Lake, not.
I'm sorry. Thank you for that correction.
so you can see that a lot of this area, I mean, this is all, so this is the area we're talking about right here, right? Yeah. That's Grange, nope, Grange Hall's down here. So
Yep,
a
right
lot of
there.
this is already wetland area, and so the water is going where the water is gonna go naturally, just by like topography and all of that. So, it's really how can we, and part of this is also reminding us, you know, when we are approving buildings, that we make sure that everyone understands the risk if you're building in a floodplain, all these. Many of these were built in the 50s. So they're, you know, 75 years ago they were constructed, but.
So there's a couple residents and a reporter who were concerned about the mill pond flooding or the dam failing. Is that a concern?
Not at this time. I haven't looked at the dam today, but I was through there yesterday. It looks like everything's flowing.
No, I mean, obviously, the Eagle last year, you know, presented their concerns about that, and that was what predicated a lot of the things that happened last year, but there has been no evidence that anything is worse. I mean, the gates are still open. We did notice that there is some debris, some like pallets that have kind of built up that got washed up. When the water level's lower, we've already talked to the Water Resource Commission, and they've relayed to Eagle that, hey, we'll try to remove that debris once it gets there, even though it's an Eagle thing, just to continue to help out to make sure that it's flowing properly.
Hold on a moment. Due to Eagle taking over the dam, whose responsibility is it to formulate a plan if the dam does fail?
At this point, it's still ours. It's still we
Okay.
still own the dam. You know, Oakland County did, you know, is moving towards establishing a legal lake level, taking that over, but we haven't gotten all the way through that process.
I'm a
yet.
little confused because since Eagle took it over, we're not allowed to touch it. So what kind of plan can we have in place if the dam were to fail?
It's still our emergency action plan, emergency operations plan, similar to anything. We would still be our responsibility, but I mean, right now, Eagle has just basically said that we can't raise the water level that would extra, not force, but extra pressure or
So we can't
on that
raise it,
water.
but we can tend to it if it fails.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've done a risk assessment, and there's only one accessory structure that would be compromised if the dam were to fail, to our best judgment. And predictions through AI also show us that we should not have any loss of life or injuries, so.
Yeah, I think that in Eagle's worst case scenario, There is a chance of potential loss of life. It's the, the house that's on the south end, I think it's,
The one in the floodplain?
yeah, but ideally, we would have ample warning and all of that. It's really that if the people like refuse to leave, that's the kind of situation that it would be in, so.
And there's the Ready, Set, Go plan that the state of Michigan has put in place, as you've seen on the news, the Sheboygan Dam failure, they're in the Ready, Set, so they're all been notified to be prepared. But as we see, it's already dropped about 1.5 inches at the Sheboygan Dam. So this isn't just localized, Holly, this is an entire statewide. I did receive an email from Oakland County yesterday informing all community partners that the governor has not declared federal disaster yet, but due to the widespread impacts, there is a potential that she will. And they are asking to document expenses for overtime police, fire, DPW, DPS, other municipal personnel, fuel costs, equipment rentals, flood mitigation, debris removal, damage to public roadways or bridges, buildings and facilities, or municipal vehicles and equipment. So I received that late last night and turned it over to administration, so.
Where this is really gonna affect us most is our wastewater treatment plant, because it's been running at capacity. We've had to have manning 24 hours a day. Some of our automated systems, because of the stress on it, have overloaded essentially, and so we've been having to run some things manually. So we're gonna be looking at this as well for maybe see about doing some cost recovery for our wastewater treatment plant. And,
Can we, is it appropriate that the village release something so that the residents are aware of what the plan is, since we're already at a record fall and we're only halfway through April?
As in, we're doing all the mitigation efforts we can now. I think that the things that have been done are gonna correct it, as far as the water flow. We would have to really get more unprecedented rain for it to exacerbate any worse. So.
Yeah, I think Thursday was the most stressful for administration. We were at high alert and we were on the cusp of possible evacuations.
And
But
that was in,
some communities.
yeah,
But with the addition of the pumps running 24, nonstop, this morning, very impressed with the work
and we're
that's
just
being
not,
done.
it just doesn't look plausible to have to worry about evacuations due to the mill pond.
Oh, no.
Okay, that was what I was referring to when I asked if
sorry.
we could release a plan of action in case the dam were to fail.
Yeah, and even so, that the area that would be affected is outside of the village. So we can make recommendations, but we can't do any kind of, municipal action on something that's in Rose Township.
Okay,
So,
okay.
that's in Rose Township.
Is the earth embankment that that they flagged us on, is that standing up to it pretty well?
Yeah, as far as anything we've seen, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know. I haven't gone out there and tried to hit it with a stick or anything to check, but it's, I've got the people that live next to it, and they're nodding their heads up and down.
It's fine, it's dropped already,
Yep.
it's lowered.
This morning I went by Lakeside Park and there's water over there. Is that being exacerbated by water, like them cleaning out that culvert?
And that is a hazard spot already. Every time we get substantial rainfalls, that does overflow right there. Danny is aware, I think he does have some signs.
He has road closure signs up
He does,
in that area.
it's closed
Yep.
down, but yeah, it's
Yep.
over, yeah, you can't drive through it.
Okay,
I bet I could. I bet I could make it.
Naturally.
all right, let's hit up this budget walkthrough, village manager and team.
Yep, okay, so now we actually begin what we're here for. So, as the budget walkthrough, again, these are just continuations of our discussions that we had last Saturday, and we're gonna continue on. Again, nothing's being voted on today. It's really for all the department heads and, myself to understand the policy directions that village council wants. I front-loaded the DDA this morning, so we can, let Kevin do his first budget presentation with us, and hopefully, can get him out on the road so we can continue on, so. Kevin, I'll pass it to you. Your coffee says yay.
All righty, well, thank you. Pardon me if I'm a little disjointed this morning with the running joke on Thursday was everyone's social battery was on empty after spending 4 days being friendly with over 2,000 people. You're like, I'm going to go home and hide. Having not presented to you guys before, I know how we've done it in other places. How do you prefer the presentation to go?
I can speak for myself, but I
for it.
think it seemed like maybe everyone liked to really look at the numbers that are showing a big difference, whether it's a big up or a big
Big
down.
down. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, on the revenue side, at the current time, these are projected numbers. There's no certainty on it. It's based on a balance of what the previous 3 years have been. You'll notice last year we budgeted 160. Through the end of March, we were actually at 181, so I just bumped it up to 185 to give a little bit of room for possible increases. TIF tax, the same thing, because some of that is a result of taxes that have been overdue, that are being collected from the county, and they get paid out at a different time period, so they tend to show up a lot of times towards the end of the season.
Again, these are revenues we're speaking of,
Yeah, these are
particularly in
just
this, so
revenues.
these are things that are really beyond control,
Yep.
it's just predictions based on.
Big predictions.
Yep.
Sponsorship is the one that we put in this year. I did add vendor fees. It's only in there for certain DDA events where we collect vendor fees, so we have an actual accounting, so we can look, what the vendor fees were against the output. Sponsorships, this year we are moving towards looking for large corporate sponsors for some of the bigger events to help offset some of the operating costs and to give local businesses and regional businesses a great opportunity to get their name out in front of everybody. Because with our events, we pull from a very wide radius to bring people in, so it's a great opportunity for them. Grant money, we're going 35,000. 10,000 of that each year is actually tech funds that come from Oakland County Main Street as part of us being in the program. The others are going to be a series of smaller grants, 5,000 or 10,000 that are applied for different projects as we're going forward. So just kind of where that's at. So if you put it together, that brings us to 416,000 in revenue is what we're going to be working with. Any questions on that so far?
Do you anticipate to have the National Preservation Grant or the ARPA monies before this fiscal year ends? Because if not, then that should be.
This is the PIP grant, the National Trust Grant, is currently in DC. In DC. Unfortunately, everybody who's doing the reviews was in Tulsa, Oklahoma with me, so they won't be getting to it till this coming week, but they're hoping to process it because of the size of that particular grant, they wanted to get it taken care of as quickly as possible, because they forecast every month what their grant expenditure is going to be, so hopefully soon. ARPA, I'm waiting till everyone gets back next week to get a chance to sit down and talk with these guys and see where that's flowing from there, because that's based on percentage based on expenditures, so we got to figure that out, okay? On the expense side,
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yes.
I did have a question for ladies' night. We budgeted we thought we were gonna bring in 3,000, but we only brought in 990. Do we know, did we not have enough vendors, or?
that was probably sponsorships and what
Okay.
they're looking at, yeah.
Okay.
And sponsorships are just all being rolled into sponsorships in general.
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to streamline some of it and detail other parts of it, so it's not, I don't want a 20-page budget printout when I get done every time. On the expense side, changes on the first section are not terribly much. Some of them, we factored in some wiggle room on some of the employee side. Gave a 6% increase over what the projected health insurance costs were for this year. 6 to 8% is kind of the standard on groups.
15.
Well, is it 15 this year? Because it's been 6 for the last handful of years, so.
Our increase was
15?
14, so we just rounded to 15.
Okay.
And then same thing too, I know we're not down that far, but the retirement, I know that you're saying that that's based 10% of the salary. Well, it isn't 10% of what you're budgeting, and also, don't forget, there's the match. So you have to include that too.
If
So
I
you're
choose to
gonna
do it, yes.
Yeah. But you're doing
I'm doing it
so
now at the
you're
moment.
gonna, it's gotta go into that number.
And
That's
we
fine.
can clean up all these numbers.
These can,
Yeah.
these are, these are just,
Okay.
because it's only been 60 days. Okay. And
Welcome
it's
to
been-
Holly.
It's been a fun 60 days, let me tell you.
These guys got 5 months and then got their first lawsuit.
Yeah, so we're getting there.
How long did it take for?
My big questions on this page are
Page,
memberships, legal
Yes.
fees, and project costs, but maybe not exactly, because there's some project costs broken down on the next page.
right.
Because I know is there a $1 million balance? Because if we have a $1 million balance, I want to see you guys spending it. You're not supposed to be,
We are spending it.
Okay.
That's coming on page,
okay.
Next
So then for this page then, I'm looking at tech funds and contingency.
which one?
This tech funds, 10,000, or sorry,
Nope,
legal fees.
Sorry.
Legal fees and contingency.
Contingency is just a, built in just in case. If something goes over, we can pull from it. Because just like when you do a contract for work, there's always a contingency written in. We put it in just to have a little wiggle room. As I say about legal fees, we, projected on the high side because Tim and I are working on some contract negotiations for services. There are some policies that need to be reviewed within the DDA's internal operating processes. So I put a high number in there so that there's funds there just in case if we need them. $500, as it has been, in all honesty, having worked with attorneys most of my career, I can barely get my attorney out of bed for under $500. And so for a year, $500 just isn't a truly workable, realistic number.
So how is our legal fees currently being covered?
They're
Tech
current-
funds.
Tech funds.
Tech
We're using money from Main Street, Oakland County, which could be used for community development and projects to pay for the legal fees.
So you think it's a waste?
But using the
Tech
tech
funds?
funds, they could be better marked, yes. Yeah.
So-
Where is it, what line, I'm sorry, but what line item? Because the tech funds, I understand, is on the revenue side.
That's a
So what's-
revenue side.
what's your
We haven't
expense?
received the tech funds yet, so we haven't expensed out the legal fees yet.
So that's what I'm saying, so you're putting it under legal fees when you do it, okay.
Yeah, because I'd like to keep tech funds next year for, we're looking at possibly a branding program or some other studies, and having that extra money to put towards that expense would be, in my opinion, a better use of the 10,000.
That's an enormous jump to go from a $500 line to a $10,000 line, and I know that the attorney that the DDA chose cost almost twice as much as our village attorney.
Did they bid that work out? Was that?
I'm not certain.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
they went out for bids for different attorneys.
But they didn't ask our village attorney.
Well, to be honest with you, most DDAs do not use the village attorney. Where 80% of the questions can be answered, the 20% that can't be, you have an attorney who has to represent two sides of arguments sometimes. It puts them in a conflict.
I see, so you're suggesting you could use Gildner for the things that
I
don't
could
require
for certain
an
things,
external one.
So what
Yeah.
some municipalities will do is they'll say, I think it's one of the southern municipalities will say, everyone uses one village attorney, and then if there's special things that they need, then you can have your own attorney to, so for instance, let's say they're gonna buy a piece of property, or they want to negotiate with the village, then the village municipal government says, yes, you can have your own attorney for that. So you're not spending, so for instance, if we're trying to figure out what the DDA wants to do, our attorney doesn't have to talk to their attorney and charge the
Get
taxpayers
double,
twice. Yeah, it
double
doesn't make any
dibs,
sense.
yeah.
But-
Yeah,
But do please remember, we don't like having to use attorneys, but we are under PA 57 afforded the right. And so we, in order to have an attorney and use them, you need to budget for them.
You're right, we shouldn't focus on what they can do, we should focus on the expenditure, and I think $10,000 is 200 times more than what that budget line used to be. I think it's exorbitant, that's my opinion.
Now, if we wanted to, while P57 does allow for the DDA to have their own attorney, there is case law that stipulates and clarifies that reasonable limits on PA 57 are within complete harmony, is what the judges said. So if we wanted to put some type of limit on that, we could.
And let's not belabor
Yeah.
this.
No.
If the rest of council has anything in particular to say, their thought about this $10,000 line, say it now and then we can move on.
I will say, if I could add, just in kind of defense to Dee Dee and Kevin on this, is that previously, even if they used the village attorney, a lot of times that cost wouldn't get pushed back to the DDA. So this line item wouldn't be just for their independent attorney, it'd be because now Lisa and I have done a better job of having, whether it's engineering or it's our attorney say, hey, what specifically is this for, so we can charge it back to the appropriate authority. So this money could also be used to fund DDA questions if they use Gilmer or.
I think we got that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with this. We are looking at reestablishing different relationships with the DDA, having them do contracts for police services and stuff like that. That is going to cost money, and I'm okay with that because I do want the village to recoup what they are spending in the DDA district too, so.
Yeah,
Amber?
and I agree, 500 is, yeah.
500 is ridiculous.
Ridiculously low,
Yeah.
And then, let's see. What about, what memberships? That looks like that might be something good for you guys.
Memberships, we're talking Main Street, National Historic Preservation, Bloom in America, I'm trying to think, there are two or three. We're also a member of Michigan Downtown Associations. So basically, it's any membership tied back to the DDA's existence and advocacy and information. A lot of the groups that we belong to are very helpful with keeping everybody on the cutting edge of economic development, because one DDA can't have all the tentacles that a statewide organization does.
Oh, I think that's great. I'm glad to see that line item go up.
Yeah, we're having, we're getting there. It's a process. Anything else on this page?
I have a question.
Sure.
We had talked about having a line item for advertising,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't see that on here.
That goes under promotions.
So I thought we had talked that we were going to split that out.
We will, but the DDA the board has to give me instructions to do it, and since I was out of town for the last meeting, I chose not to put that cross in front of them without me there to walk them through for questions and that. So it'll be coming, okay?
Lisa, what do you think mandates the necessity? That was redundant. Lisa, can you give us your opinion on having that line item broken out?
So, because there's been a lot of questions regarding, when they turn in, we'll call it local advertising or just advertising in general, there's questions about it, so, things have been miscoded in the past and things like that, so we had talked, and I know I think it was when you guys had your Main Street DDA, when Oakland County came, we had talked about that, and they said it would look better if it had its own line item broken out with it.
Right.
And so then they said, okay, you said when budget came that you guys were gonna do that, so I didn't see that, that's why I was asking.
That's okay.
So this is for auditing, coding.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, and the next page, it looks like you've got follow-up sheets broken out
Yes.
really nicely to
Yes, I
explain
tried to
those
make
project
this as
costs.
easy for you guys to follow the thinking for the numbers as I could. Like I was just earlier mentioning, some of this is science and some of it is not so much science, because, these are things that we'll be requesting bids for, so we can't really hard calculate the numbers, but, kind of some guesstimates. Dickens has been, it was 12,000 last year, it's gonna be 12,000 this year. We feel it's an absolutely wonderful opportunity, since it
I'm
brings.
sorry, it was 10 last year, 12 this year?
10 2 years ago, 12 this past year.
Got it.
12 this coming year is what they were telling me.
Okay.
And with the number of people coming to town, it's a great opportunity for Main Street and everyone to really promote themselves and make people see the value of coming to visit us. One of the things we've been talking about as a board is Holly has great destination events. We'd like to see Holly become a year-round destination, not just an events destination, because we sit surrounded by so much year-round activity. How do we start telling people, hey, it's okay to come in if you're hiking, if you're just riding your bike, whatever, come into town. We'd love to see you, besides the Dickens Festival, Witches Night, and a lot of the other one-off events that bring a lot of people in. And so that's their holidays. We left it at 600 as we're still negotiating and trying to figure out what holidays is going to become. we're not quite sure where it's, what the final is gonna be looking like, so.
On point 101.
101,
So-
project cost organization?
Yeah, on that follow-up page, project cost organization, number 2, volunteer appreciation dinner. I know that we had, not you and I, I think Lisa, maybe you and I had some discussions when it came to doing reimbursement checks for volunteers, lunches, dinners. What, was that okay, or was there something about how volunteer appreciation meals were supposed to be donated? I can't remember exactly what the issue was.
No, we were, wondering, because the events are usually pre-planned, that, why did they, like, again, it would be your sponsorship.
Well, part of what they did prior to me coming was, and then it's a good move intentionally, we don't ask the small businesses to donate any more than they already do. I'm not gonna go to a restaurant that's making 6-7% profit yearly and go, hey, by the way, I got 30 volunteers I wanna feed, can you donate 30 meals? Now, if they come to me and say, hey, we'd be more than happy to, I'm not gonna say no, but I'm not gonna go and ask them as they're already involved with some of the stuff to get more money.
But for auditing purposes, this line item is okay.
Yeah, because what the volunteer
I'm asking.
appreciation dinner usually is all the volunteers, once a year, the DDA brings them together and thanks them. We did it in Oxford, and it was a very good once-a-year opportunity to get them all together, thank them, with the opportunity to talk. Hey, this is what's coming up next year.
So this would negate then the separate receipts for every time for the events?
It would be
to run?
hard to say. Sometimes it might be factored in, like a bigger event like Witches or that, if there's lots of volunteers, they may buy, we may buy pizza for them, we may, it's hard to say what, it's an event by event,
So would
situation.
this be something then they would vote upon on the board then before the event happened, so that we would know?
When,
this
when
expense
broad
would be
strokes,
coming?
yes.
Okay.
The volunteer dinner is a very common thing that happens, like throughout the state, almost every community that has DDA, that has a bigger DDA does something very similar.
Yeah.
Grand Havens, they do it down at the amphitheater where tables, and it's like more of like a black tie event kind of thing they do, so, yeah.
We aren't that fancy.
When you said amphitheater, I'm like, I wish.
So just to be clear, I was not questioning the merit. I was
No, I
making
know.
sure
I
it's
just-
allowed for auditing. Number 5,
Yes.
create and review policies and procedures. I'm getting tripped up how that's not covered under legal.
Well, some of this, these are things that that they're going to do. So it will be covered under legal, and if there's any type of printing or anything involved in
The
here.
printing piece,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Goes back, sorry, that.
Yep.
Policies and procedures kind of fall across multiple categories depending upon where it's at. So it's in a couple, 3 places. Okay.
Couple ones for you. So the Dickens Festival is one we discussed at the last council meeting, and our attorney says we can't do it, essentially. So,
He's going to do another opinion on it. I mean, so,
Perfect.
yeah.
Because it is, because technically it does fall under business promotion and economic development, which is the broad stroke of the TIF plan.
I mean, I'm only arguing what he has said, so I don't, I think it's a good idea personally, but if you could come up with a different opinion now, that would be okay. And then a facade grant. So my understanding with the facade grant, currently based off the requirements, it's only for businesses.
Facade grants under TIF revenue and TIF plans can only be allowed for businesses and multi-unit buildings,
So there are
not
municipalities.
individuals.
So there are municipalities that for sure do give it to residentials.
Then they probably don't do it with TIF funds, they probably do it through grants and other types of monies that they raise.
So that, you think that's stipulated in PA 57 that you can only give grant money to businesses?
Well, businesses or multi-unit developments, because it's for business development, not residential development. That's what the TIF plan is for, it's for stopping.
So a single-family home, for instance, does not qualify even if
No.
they're in the district?
No.
Okay.
But as I said, a lot of them might, there are grants available, and some DDAs that have a large residential component sometimes go out and get these grants, and so they'll be available occasionally, but not consistently.
'Cause I think we have a large residential component. I mean, we have more homes than we do businesses.
Absolutely.
But
But we don't have those grants currently.
we don't have the
Yeah,
grants.
and you can't use PA 57 funds for that, he's saying, yeah, so we'd have to find outside funding.
Yeah, the DDA would have to go to something, to a grant and apply for it that isn't tied to TIF revenue, because TIF revenue is defined as to what it can be spent on by the state, so we have to stick with that.
Okay.
But if we get grants, that's a different story.
So if it was allowed, we could do it, essentially?
If there was
Okay.
money for it that wasn't tied, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sold on all of this. This
I'm
looks
not, I
great.
have some questions.
I have,
I'm not sold.
I'm not,
Trying to get out of it.
okay, I'm not done talking.
Okay.
You guys, I have a question about number 6, and I also have a question about when it comes to the furniture upgrades in Battle Alley, are we looking at TDA? Sorry, the disability compliance.
Yes, what we're,
ADA.
ADA,
Thank you.
All of a sudden, alphabet
letters.
soup went out of my head.
You're-
One of the concerns I heard frequently from the businesses was, while they looked great, the furniture wasn't the most appropriate for the usage.
It's not easy to get around for wheelchairs and
So
for
we're looking
strollers
at
and,
much more of a commercial ADA compliant to make the alley as usable for everybody as possible and to reduce pinch points, because I heard a lot of people
Yeah.
complaining about getting pinched on the thigh or this or that because the chair moved just, So we're looking at what is a better quality but a look appropriate setup for the
good,
alley.
because those pinch points during events are a real. And then, number 6, if you don't mind. Oh, sorry, under, project cost design.
Wayfinding study?
Yep,
Alrighty, guys, everyone know what wayfinding is? It's a term we like to use a lot. Basically, how do we get people around town? Downtown has some good wayfinding and it has some not so good wayfinding, especially the further north you go. You know, the little sign that says business district this way, it's barely big enough to read as you're going by it. So what a wayfinding study does is they come in, they look at the downtown, they'll measure some of the traffic flow over a period of time that they're here observing. They'll come back and say, these are our suggestions, that you put signs here, you have your signs look like this. Simplify, a lot of times, we believe sometimes a lot of verbiage makes more sense, but when you're driving in a car and it says municipal parking this way, a simple P circle with an arrow is a lot easier to process than a busy sign.
Consistency as well.
Consistency is big. I've joked with Tim, I drive in East Holly Road when I come to work, and I've counted 42 signs from the village limit to where I turn off
Yeah.
on both sides of the road. So we have a wee bit of a sign pollution problem, and it's not just on Maple, Saginaw and others. And what wayfinding would allow us to do is start a plan and a way to start to work to decrease it and help us work with the planning in order to create a consistent design look.
I love it.
so
Signs.
font, color scheme across
The
all the
whole nine yards.
projects,
Yep,
then
yep.
Mr. Love might finally give us a seal of approval, and that would be really nice, you guys. All
Yeah.
right, Shannon?
We won't get it.
Last Thursday, the staff actually drove for our department head meeting. We actually drove through the village, and that's what our focus is on, our signs. And all right, where do we have redundancy in signs? Which ones can be taken down? How can we have consistent? And these are based on a lot of conversations that Kevin and I have had about these. And so, no, we're really looking forward to working with the DDA on this. Just for, even like when we talk about municipal parking, how is municipal parking different than public parking?
Right.
So words matter, and so some people might look at the word municipal parking and say, oh, I can't park there, that's just for the municipal people. So maybe we need to change it to say public parking. Things like that are the conversations we're having about this.
Okay, those are my questions. Let's go to Shannon and then
Shannon?
Amber, and then we'll,
Jim had one follow-up.
One follow-up, can we fix the welcome to Holly signs? So they're not floating, please.
Oh, I think it's rather fitting with everything.
Gosh,
Okay.
if we
So-
could fix that, I would be so happy.
All right, moving on from Jim.
Yes.
I do have some
Give more
questions.
range, sure,
When I was looking at some of what we're spending at the festivals, Dickens is double the amount of their ladies' night, far higher than the holidays and things like that. Dickens is what, 3 weekends kind of deal? Is that actually, because Dickens has its own entity and its own fundraising and its own things, this is us paying to an outside entity for that, or is this funds what each business is then using for themselves?
That
to
is a
promote with it?
sponsorship that puts Main Street Holly as the primary sponsor of the Dickens Festival, gives name, place, and then we can set it up with QR codes and other stuff that takes them right to the map. It's just the jumping point of selling the whole
Cause it seems like
downtown.
ladies' nights are their big ones that they're trying to spend down
Right.
there to bring people in throughout throughout the year.
But they do
and
one
we're
or,
not
they're doing one or two right now.
Okay, it's been 4.
And so-
So that is equal to the amount of Dickens, and I am more concerned in how they're doing outside of November, December. Like, do they need this help in May? You know, are we not concentrating enough money to bring people into town throughout the year, and we're just putting it all in Dickens?
It's coming in
Good,
promotions.
okay, cause that
It's
is a
coming,
big one for
okay?
me. Dickens is
Dickens
great, love
is-
Dickens,
Dickens
I
is
have
a
no
one-off.
problems with it,
Yeah.
but it's their one done deal
Yep.
for 3 times the amount. The other one is holidays, this is a concentrated effort throughout the whole village. I personally think $600 is a sad contribution, but.
Again, you know, they're just starting to talk.
And my other questions were also in like projects and promotions, so in their TIF plan, they have some things going towards the parks. I love that, I think that their idea of having mini parklets throughout Saginaw is a great way, because we don't traditionally promote mid and north town. That's been a sad thing in, you know, bringing stuff back. We have a wonderful downtown, there's no doubt, everybody loves downtown, people come in for downtown. But I wanna see mid and north get some of this project
Okay,
cost.
I'm gonna make one nitpicky change
Sure.
that I am making with the DDA, and I'd like to start making a little bit wider. When I talk downtown, I talk the whole district boundary.
Perfect.
When I talk sections of downtown, you'll hear Stark, Midtown, and North. Because we need to understand, not just the DDA, everybody, that when the DDA is talking downtown, it's the whole length. Now, there is no question, due to the nature of the historic part, you know, part of downtown, it's going to at times get more attention, just by the nature of the fact that those buildings are expensive. So facade grants tend to move down there more often, because we want to keep that look as much as we can. So I'm trying to, you know, I joke with some folks, you know, there are times there are disagreements, we use the same words, but we have different dictionaries. And I'm trying to consistently have everyone using the same kind of verbiage for the downtown, so everybody understands, the DDA is the whole district, we understand that. We're coming to Midtown, we have some great plans for Midtown that we'd like to do, but it's gonna take some time.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
love
we
that
can't
cultural
just,
change.
I wish I could just pull a switch and go, hey, we have lights, we have streetscape, we have it takes, you know, a lot of process.
Sure,
So,
consistency is the key. I
Yep.
like that
Yep.
idea of changing the culture, of thinking downtown is only.
Because we had that problem in Oxford, when
Yeah,
you said
absolutely.
downtown, everybody thought the four corners at Burdick and M24, and ours, unlike Holly, ours went north and south from there, so you had to refer back and forth. It took a little time for everyone to get to
Oxford
understand
looks
it,
great.
so, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just reiterate again, yeah, holidays, again, that's centered, you know, we talk about, we don't wanna just focus, you know, December time for these events, we wanna all day, you know, all year long. And yeah, $600 is like, we as a parks department will put in more than that, and our budget is 10% of yours. So I would like to see a little bit more cooperation and help with you guys on that, and again, it's bringing people downtown to your businesses, so I don't understand why.
I think we need to have a more informed discussion about holidays in general as a council, and because I think last year, I was kind of, not ambushed, but it was kind of like, it used to be a DDA and Parks event, and then I think they were like, hey, a new manager, it's a village event, and I was like, wait, all the other promotions are always DDA and Parks, and it was kind of given to me.
That was Walker
Now,
doing that
and-
to you.
Yeah, and well, and I will say that the reason we had any success at all was Sarah McCanny. She ran that and she did a great job, and I would love to keep that momentum, but, you know, any kind of increased, you know, support we get from the DDA was kind of just on the tertiary last year for sure.
Back down.
We would love to have it be a part.
I donated all graphic design for that and going into Halloween. So
Yeah.
that
Well,
was
and-
pure donation from here.
Yeah, we had got a, it was definitely a council and Parks led thing, and however we can involve the DDA more in that, from like starting like now, planning and all of that these meetings that we're starting to do, I would love to have it be a true like partnership event, because it is a celebration not only of our residents in the area, but also the businesses and all that.
And it's a tradition. People love holidays. They love Carry Nation. It is something that you're gonna win 1 million people with doing a nice holidays.
Well, one thing to keep in mind, even though I just budget $600, it doesn't mean I can't come back to you guys and say, hey, we're doing this. We have this fund reserve. I'd like to try transfer fund reserve into that line account. I only had my first conversation about this, not even a month ago?
Yeah.
So I'm,
Yeah.
it's still very fluid. So I don't want to put a large amount of money on it and get their hopes up, and then something changes and we have to go, hey, listen, no, we have to do. I'd rather work in stages and build up to it rather than jump all at
And that's the
once.
purpose of these meetings, is so you can let, let Kevin know what your guys'
So I can go back to
priorities
them.
are and things, so that he can bring it back to the DDA. Because I don't think that, even though we've talked holidays before, Kevin and I haven't really had that much of a discussion about what does that sponsorship and partnership look on holidays. And so letting him know that now can let us have more informed discussions, as well as him have more informed discussions with his board. So, again, this is just the initial conversation
So,
about the budget.
Okay, I still have two more questions.
go ahead.
Go for it.
American Bloom, can you explain that?
American Bloom, yes. American Bloom is a nonprofit that works in the United States out of Philadelphia. Now, the title is a little bit misleading, so it makes you think, oh, it's all about flowers. That's only part of the component. They're gonna come in, they're gonna visit us for 2 days. They're gonna wander the district with DPW, myself, Tim, somebody from the parks. We're gonna look at everything. We're gonna talk planting, we're gonna talk garden beds, we're gonna talk art, we're gonna talk signage. They're gonna go away for about a month or two, send me back a report and say, this is what we recommend. Reason I'm doing this, like I told Jerome and the design committee, is there's a lot of different visions of what everybody wants. Having outsiders come in who are specialists can help streamline that process for
I
us.
love that.
Because like one community's like, oh, we can't get anything to grow, they have geraniums up and down their Main Street now. They're known as the Geranium City. And so, because somebody came in and said, well, why don't you try this? Because of your soil and, you can do this. So it's kind of good sometimes to bring the outsiders in who have the expertise. And a lot of these guys that are coming, that do this are experts in economic development and horticulture. So they're gonna bring the best of two worlds together. And what intrigued me was the art portion of it. Them coming and going, hey, we thought about doing art here, maybe a little art here. We've got murals, which are a good start, but it's like, how do we grow the art program? So it's, not only
Yeah,
district-wide, but
unification, right.
moving it
I
all the
love
way
that.
through.
And
So-
then just last quick question, number 17 for project costs, work with parks to implement new steps on the adopted Ganshaw Park improvement plan.
Yes.
We had talked with our DDA, or our DPW, sorry, about potentially, we've got a bunch of invasive cattails there. So are you guys on board with kind of helping out
Yep.
to take care of that? Okay.
Like I've told the board, I've told Tim, I would have killed for 3 parks in downtown Oxford, in the DDA district. I had 1, surrounded by parking lots and state highway, yay. So having 3 parks gives the village a wonderful marketing tool and because one of the visions that I would love to see is the ability to walk completely from the north all the way to the south end of our district and feel comfortable, have green zones, so you can walk and take advantage of these parks, rather than have to drive down to the park, get out of your car, drive back, get back in. It's kind of to create much more, I'll use the term Mayberry, maybe not in the sense some people think of, but more of a Mayberry downtown where everybody is walking. You begin to know who your neighbors actually are, rather than, I think he lives across this, those types of things, so.
All right. I'd like to go back to the holidays for a second. What's with the resistance to buy-in? You said if something happens, you don't want to make a promise and then
It's
have
not a
that.
resistance to buy-in, it is literally, I have no clue what's going on.
He's not had that conversation before with him.
Haven't had the conversation.
Literally.
So
it's-
there's no reason to think that the board is resisting buy-in as opposed to
No,
Dickens, where
it's
we're
just,
committing 12 grand.
they're being very intentional about sometimes what we invest in, what we don't. Partially because they're also sometimes responding to what they hear back from the merchants. So in order to overcome some of the feedback they get from the individual merchants, a process of, okay, this is where is Holidays going? What are we doing different? Where is there a position for the DDA to niche and do something that might help that downtown directly?
I do remember last year there was a sabotage attempt that was being spoken on and that was redirected and corrected, and Holidays ended up being okay for it, but I just wanted to make sure that's not an ongoing fear.
That's before me.
Okay.
So I'm not, as I've joked with Tim, I'm building a wall. For everything before me, I'm dealing with the issues that come, that have to be, but that's the past. I'm looking forward, I'm trying to keep everything positive and forward-looking. because I
As a
think.
history professor, you know that we have to learn
I
lessons
know
from the
that.
history in order
I
to
do,
avoid them in the
but,
future.
you know, the other thing I know is you have to be careful about dwelling on it sometimes, so it's kind of like if I
Right.
can refocus.
And so as long as
positive.
this isn't something that's a current fear, I'm happy to go forward. I would just
Yep.
like to see something like holidays in the past.
Well, holidays in the past used to be ran by the DDA.
Well, it also used to be Carrie Nation, too.
I'm saying, when I started as a volunteer, I started first time at holidays.
Yeah.
That was my first DDA volunteer event where I helped him with the parade.
Well, we have a holidays
Ridiculous.
meeting this week, I
Any
think
questions
on
on the budget?
Thursday, so.
Any questions on the budget? Thomas? Buster?
No?
Back to anyone else? Anything new come up?
Welcome aboard.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Here.
Thank you. Now, please, as I said earlier, please don't be insulted. I have to be in Plymouth by 1 o'clock to support a buddy's son who's doing his first lead role in a musical. So,
We don't expect you to sit here for this when you can go to a musical.
trust me.
That-
Family
High
first.
School Musical. Woo. Thank you, guys.
Bye, Kevin, thank you.
If, the process obviously is I have to go back to the DDA board with these. I'd love to say I have the blanket authority, but
And
No, it's fine.
once again, that project cost breakout, loved it.
yes, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You guys enjoy the rest of your meeting, and I will see you
Yay.
all Monday.
Hey,
Madam President, 5 minutes?
sure, let's take 5.
Any chance to stand up?
I don't understand why I do it. we live?
Yes, we're live.
Welcome back. We're gonna go into the general fund and the fire department and,
Yep. So
all right.
we're going back to Fund 101. Again, we've kind of been bouncing around a little bit, just to meet everyone's schedules, and also we're doing things a little different this time. We're gonna go through the fire department, building fund, a bunch of those we're gonna go into solid waste, then we're gonna do a debt service review, go over revenues, talk the special assessment, we're gonna talk our capital improvement plan briefly, and then next steps, all the things that we need to accomplish before we get to our final approvals and where we're gonna go from here. So I'm gonna pass it over to Jeremy, and I'm gonna pull this up now. I should turn my mic on. That's not, come on. There we go.
Madam, do I have the floor?
You do.
Thank you, council, for your continued support of the fire department and public safety initiatives. I want to emphasize on our commitment to fiscal responsibility, transparency, and maximizing all of our taxpayer value. Over the past 3 years as the chief, we have aggressively pursued and secured multiple grants, saving the village thousands of dollars. The most recent grant we received was we received a Polaris 6x6 UTV vehicle. I think I included a picture in one of my council packets most recently. But what we're most excited about is the new education and training programs that we launched, I believe it was July or August of last year, and we've generated almost over $9,000 in revenue in our first year. So as we go through our budget, there are only a couple line items that were changed from last year.
I do want to point out, once again, on the firefighter line, keep in mind that the firefighters this is not representative of the special assessment amount that was in there. So add an additional 300,000 onto this number. It was exactly 300 that we pulled over from the special assessment to cover these expenses. So it's not a 254,000 jump to 571. It was 554,600 was the actual amount. So
That was my first question.
yeah,
Okay.
I felt it. So sorry, Jeremy.
No, you're good. So I'll answer any questions moving forward. If we want, we can go line by line.
Medical insurance went down.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at too. Any reason for the medical insurance to be half?
Well, I think that last year, again, if we are looking at what the activity was this year and we're projecting it out for the next year, basically doing a 15% increase on, what our projections would be if we were to continue on for the rest of the year. I'm not sure why I think maybe our projections were higher, but if we look at our 24-25 activity, it wasn't even $1,000.
Right.
But we do have 2 personnel now that are covered under there because Kurt Nitschke is now part of it as well. So
I think we remember, just if I could just.
yeah, you always have. You can, yeah.
So I think that, so with Kurt Nitschke and Jeremy, they're both split 50-50, 50% fire, 50% building. And so they might have been having 100% of their medical coming out of the building instead of the fire, or the fire instead of, 50-50. So I think we've gotten a little bit better with that.
And when we get to building, let's make sure that we just have a note that we kind of look at medical insurance activity too, just to see if it's over. That might be why, because it would be representative of this budget. If that makes sense.
There's really no other jumps that surprise me.
I do just have one quick question.
Please.
I know last year we were hoping to add a furnace or something to make sure that you guys had a training room. Can that be reflected? Is that maybe, can we add it to, or is it available for, repairs, buildings and grounds? You guys are looking a little bit less here.
We are evaluating the training room aspect because when Chief Watson, he has been doing the initial, and he can jump in any time too. He's been doing the initial review of what it would take to actually modify that extra bay into a training room.
Okay.
to like all the standards as far as plumbing and electrical. I think that the numbers that he was seeing are greater than we want to really commit to it right away. We want to get there eventually, but we also know as we're living lean, it might not be an expense that that we can justify right now.
It won't
Although
bring in as much as we're spending on.
he's able to bring in money for it, but as far as the initial capital investment we're going to have to make, when we're doing a special assessment, all these other things, we haven't got everything else figured out. We want to do it. We think it is going to be something that is going to be a net positive for us, not only for ourselves, for the area, but also it would be a cash revenue thing for us to do training. Chief Watson, Assistant Chief Nitschke have been very proactive on of it. But again, the capital investment is a little steep for us right now.
And I can explain, when we first brought this idea to council, there was a sewer outlet in the Back Bay building. Once Danny was able to have a little bit of free time and run some cameras, we realized that it did not attach to the sewer main. So for us to put a bathroom in the Back Bay, we have to dig up the entire parking lot and put a new sewer tap out at the main. And the pipe runs right down the middle of Saginaw, so we would also have to expose Saginaw.
Gotcha.
And that expense alone, even with DPW doing a good majority of that work, I don't wanna take the resources from the village to do that, but the expense alone is probably pushing 60 to 80,000. And once I realized that we didn't have that connection at the road, it kind of put a stop to that plan at this time.
Is it an option to bring a Cadillac in or something like that for,
Well, we have to be
Training.
ADA compliant to put that training room in, so we have to have a minimum 6x6 or really an 8x8 restroom with accessibility. We can't have them go from the training room back into the station to use the restroom. We have to have those facilities right out at the classroom. And I've had multiple quotes come out and it's just not feasible. And I
meant like a trailer, for instance, a portable ADA compliant trailer, if that would be able to launch our
I haven't
training
looked at
program
that.
further.
I haven't looked at that, Jim, and honestly, right now, we just launched 3 more programs. 2 of the 3 are virtual. So if we can continue down the virtual path, we're still generating money, and Kurt and I can actually do those from home, because we can sit at our home office and still teach these classes, rather than.
They live together the way that he made it sound.
And the spouse- that's why the spouse.
Your guys' home office.
We each have our own home office.
Jeremy,
the same
you're turning
house,
kinda red there, buddy.
I appreciate Kurt's
He heard that
done.
one, didn't he?
Sorry.
All right, let's get us back on track here. So for vehicle fleet insurance, I see we have 35,000 for that, but we've already spent 35,915. I wanna make sure that we're making sure that we cover that, maybe about midway down vehicle fleet insurance.
So I would default to Lisa. I believe, we did acquire a couple new vehicles. We received the 1500 Silverado pickup truck, free of charge from the state grant, but we did have to insure it. We had the Polaris 6x6, which was added to insurance. And am I missing one, Lisa?
Durango.
Your new Durango.
Oh, the new Durango, well, we took off the Explorer and then put on the Durango, so there was an upcharge for the newer vehicle.
We will need to increase this line item, but you are correct. And so the reason that this one, so Chief Watson was the first department head that I worked with a while back to establish the numbers in the right, and the activity numbers that I pulled were from Thursday. And so there's a lot of stuff that's happened in the last month or so, so we are gonna have to update those to be more reflective. Now, I don't know, I'll have to look at the cost of that, like when the premiums are paid, all of that, like, is that the final number for the year, the 35, or is it a monthly amount? So that we can,
No, it's not a monthly amount.
so if that's the total, then we're kind of right around where we need to be probably, but, we will probably have to adjust and look at,
And then just second to contractual, same thing. We've got 40 for it, but we've already spent 42 this year. So is there something like a contract that's coming off, or?
Contractual is probably my biggest line item where I funnel a lot of my things expenses through, especially if it's a contract that we honor every year. One of the ones that we're looking at closely, Kurt and I right now, is the Oakland County CFERS. We have a program now that we do all our medical reporting through is ESO, and we would look to save about 25% if we were to make the switch and get rid of Oakland County. So that will save the village approximately $5,000 to $7,000 a year, but we're still actively pursuing it. I know Springfield just went to that new platform where they took Oakland County out of the equation and now using a private system. We already have that private system in place through medical reporting, but I still want to do a little bit more due diligence, as Oakland County is a phenomenal resource. What are there other avenues that or other things that Oakland County provides through this reporting system versus the ESO and the pros and cons of that? So I just learned of this within the last probably 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, and I'm hoping to meet with Chief Covey from Springfield in the very near future. I owe him a lunch, so I think we're gonna sit down and have those conversations on the pros and cons of making that switch.
Like I said, I just wanna make sure we got it.
But contractual last year really hit me too.
There's a couple notes that Chief has also made on this one up here that is, I don't think reflective on your sheet yet, so he
Right.
did want to bump up from contractual from 40,000 to 45, and down at equipment, he wanted to go from 12 to 2250.
And I think that that number 36 is an important one to discuss. I have 2 boats right now at the fire hall. Both are flat bottom boats with a 40 horse Mercury on them. But we have approximately 9 bodies of water in the Shiawassee River. Only one of those 9 bodies of water I can use those boats for, and that's Bush Lake, because they have an access. All the other waterways, I have no way or no resources right now to access them. About 30 days ago, we had a report that there was a kayaker possibly drowning in, I believe it was Bevins, and I actually commandeered Mr. Wingelmeyer's kayak.
It was a kayak that drifted away, so they always treat it as if the person went under, yeah.
100%.
It became unfounded, but what was really apparent was I didn't have a resource to get out there, right? So Oakland County Marine Division was there. They were looking to bring in boats and go through people's yards, and just I just grabbed a kayak, went out there, did what I needed to do to assure that we had, and then we were able to locate the owner of that kayak, and it just drifted away in a windstorm, and he said he didn't have enough time to go get it before he went to work that next morning. But I do have some images here. We're looking at something similar to this. It's a inflatable 14-foot flat bottom aluminum boat, which will allow us to quickly deploy this in the Shiawassee River and all of our inland bodies of water to, in the event that we have an emergency. I'm not calling in additional resources, which is a delay in time. And this one here is about $2,300, and it would meet a good majority of our needs. I also got 3 other different quotes in here that, I think would be extremely beneficial. It's one of our weaknesses right now. And then, as we've been working with Sun Communities all week, this could have been a resource that would have been drastically needed in the event that we were unable to evacuate the homes before the flooding was too bad.
Let's hypothetically say we did, get that boat, will we have an enclosed trailer or something? that would
We already
carry
have
with it?
we have a flat trailer. It's not enclosed, but it's I don't know what you would call it, a landscape trailer. We already have
Utility
that.
trailer.
Yeah, we already have that now. And we had one of these boats, but it was an agreement with Groveland. Groveland requested the boat back, and then once Groveland realized that the seams have all dry rotted out, they didn't want it back. So then I reached out to a company, and they've deemed it out of service. The seams couldn't be repaired or
They're
replaced.
that bad. I'm just saying, like, it says inflatable, so like the inflation part of it, a place to store the motor for it.
There's no more.
There's no motor, it's all
No
board?
more. Yep.
Okay.
It's all bores, paddles.
those materials dry rotting, is there an upgraded version that you could get that's maybe not inflatable? And do we have room to store something that's not inflatable?
Well, I think the inflatable part of it, it would always be inflated first. The one that we had now was over 20 years old. The lifespan of these are between 10 and 15 years.
Oh, okay.
He was against getting a swan paddle boat, like refurbished. I thought him and Kurt could go out on it, but
Can we get you a trolling motor?
One item to consider is if it is for the Shiawassee as well, I know that they are they being the
Shiawassee.
Shiawassee River Trail, I believe.
You had Waters Trail Association.
They're very particular on how wide the actual cutting is for the path.
So we actually had, I don't remember if you remember, I believe it was early summer of last year, we had some bikes over abandoned on Oakland. And we launched an extensive search. We had a canoe at that time. It was one of our firefighters, and we took that canoe down, and I don't see any reason why this boat would not be able to mitigate through those.
I know from doing some of the trails, maybe not in the village actually, so in the village I guess would be okay, wouldn't we?
Yeah, no,
Outside,
everything that
yeah.
we've seen, and we went
Okay,
all the way down to the canoe, the kayak
Yeah, I was thinking
launch.
past the village, there's some very narrow areas, so.
Yes. And it would make it under both of the culverts that are in the village too.
And we can have a discussion with Sue Julian from the Headwaters Trail Association to just see, because they know that those 82 miles, even though that obviously the 82 miles are all in the village, but they 88, she's saying over there, that the last 6 we don't care about. So no, but they know them very well and could probably give us some recommendations about, this, but the inflatable portion would allow us to, port it when we need to and, all that, so.
Well, and realistically, you've got the access now to where that new, community has been built, where we have that little pocket park where you could get in right there too.
And behind the
Well, we
water
could take
department.
this on.
You're past the culverts at that point.
And
We
well,
could take
then you're
this
out in the
on
township road
private
too, so.
property and still be able to port.
Cause
that.
you can carry it, right?
Yeah.
And then
I
what
think
is
it's
the,
150 pounds.
what is the carrying weight inside of it?
It carries 14 people, so I believe it says.
Holy jeez, oh Pete.
But you gotta remember with our equipment.
Oh, I
and
know, I'm
2
just saying,
people, if we
Dave.
were to have to rescue 2 people, I think that would be.
No, I'm just saying, be able to carry 14 people, just plain people, I mean, you guys' equipment, you get 3 or 4 guys in there.
I stand corrected, it's 10 people.
Never mind then.
14.
Yep, we'll take that off the back now, expose that deal.
I do have one question for you, if we're
Yes.
ready to move on. For vehicles, I know last year's vehicle purchase ended up being your unsafe Explorer that we were able thankfully to do.
Thank you.
What is planned for this year vehicle? I think it's budgeted for the same amount as last year.
I believe that's just for, engine 1, the engine 1 that was purchased 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 2 years ago through council.
No, I think he's talking about, so this line, 981,
37.
yeah, this might be,
I don't have anything budgeted for 44,000.
so, yeah, this.
I think that's just
needs to be-
what we pay, like our yearly payment on that.
I thought your yearly payment was 50.
No, our yearly payment on the, you're talking about the fire truck?
Engine 1, yes.
Yeah, that's,
66.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that number needs to be looked at, right there, because,
I believe, but if I can,
Yeah.
so the 44 is part of it, and then I think doesn't the, isn't
Timber.
it timber? Yeah, is it
Has
one of the
pledged.
marijuana pledges of the rest?
Oh.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, you are right, they did. Okay.
So I guess the question now is then, the 44 last year is not a budgeted vehicle, was not the budgeted vehicle?
Let me look at the, actual GL activity on that, just,
So that's why it was
That should be
66,000.
the vehicle, yes.
Yeah.
I think that's the vehicle, that's why, I thought that, I thought the payments
I
for
thought
the
the truck cost
fire
more
truck
money.
were a different line.
No, it was
Where is that line?
I think that might
I think it's closer to the bottom, Tim.
Is it non-departmental?
because I wanna say it was only like 5.
Is it?
Maybe it was
No.
750 or something.
We need to come back to you on that one. I'm gonna pull up GL while we're talking, so too.
My assumption when I looked at that, I thought it was for our commitment to engine 1.
That's what I
That's what
thought.
I thought too.
How much was it to originally purchase engine 1?
I'm sorry?
How much was it to originally?
666,000.
Okay, Okay, so it was, okay.
This number right here.
Yep, that's the.
We weren't sure if that was including something else or not, so.
No, that was the cost. And, I had a vendor in this week and he said that same truck this year is $780, so. Shows
Let's
you.
sell it. Flip it.
With that, I would still like to stay on 36 because, as you can see, the 2200 isn't quite the reflection there. But with that new 6x6, we're looking to get this skid unit to be put on the back of the 6x6. And this would be used for all of our events in the downtown, Sorensen Park with the disc golf. Last year, we had an individual break a leg way out there, and we had to literally carry the individual. He wasn't a small man.
Is
So-
Sorensen Park in the village?
Parts of it are.
It is,
Very
yeah.
good.
Really?
Yup.
Yeah.
Way in
It's a
the back?
township park that's in the village, yeah.
Township Park in the village, yes.
Township Park.
All of them.
All the township parks
are
are
in
in
the
the village.
village.
Gotcha.
They are.
This one, the
Love
cheapest,
their money too.
the cheapest quote I was able to get is $4,250. And as you can see, this will carry the stretcher, where we can put the stretcher right on the back of this. We can have patient care, and then it also gives us a cargo unit to carry our EMS supplies.
That's awesome.
Can we pass that around?
Yeah, please.
Thanks.
That is very cool.
That's
There's a
a
couple of
necessity.
So the line up there does say 22,500.
Well, it's an additional 10,000 to the 12
Okay.
Oh, for a total. Gotcha.
for a total of these two expenses.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause he kept saying 36, I'm like, where's 36?
I knew I was like, I'm not on number 36.
Line number.
Yeah, line number on the,
Up there, yeah. We don't have those numbers here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, yeah.
Can do that.
Council, anything else? Okay.
Does that include, does that fit the,
it's made for the players.
no, I meant, does that fit the new,
Stretchers,
the stretcher that's automatic, does the,
power load,
the power load one? So we don't gotta worry about buying another stretcher, we can,
that we'll be able to reuse.
now, do we have an extra stretcher for that?
We
or
do,
would it just
and
be-
we're not gonna use the power load for that. We have an additional stretcher that would fit.
The expenditures on this 40,000 was a payment just for the Durango. So
A single payment?
it was
For the-
single payment for the Durango.
I knew it came under the budget
Yeah.
at 44.
Yeah, so that did not, the fire truck, did not come out of that line, nor were there any payments previous years. So we need to find out where that is.
Yeah.
I can't remember where that
Now,
expenditure is.
what about also, back to the 6x6, what about putting, like, if, God forbid, we had a brush fire that happened somewhere?
Yeah, so the last, we're so dense in our 3.02 square miles. The last wildland fire that we had was over 5 years ago, and it was along the railroad tracks. So we are so tightly packed that we are confident that we can access almost all of our wildland areas. The only place that would be a question for us would be in Sorensen Park, one, if the park were to catch on fire, or if one of the mulch piles out there. And at that point, we would have to bring in additional resources with tankers.
And then what about some of the areas that we, buddy up to, I guess you could say, to where it's like mutual aid kind of a thing?
It would be a
where-
mutual aid partner response.
so-
I would love to have a brush truck. I don't,
You called it what?
a brush truck. I think we would get more use out of an EMS response than a fire response for the 6x6.
I just meant, do they have a separate thing you could
They do,
put in there?
100%,
I mean, I don't know if they, if you.
but it's not both. You can't do a fire.
Oh, it can't have both of them in there?
No,
or
just
not?
because the pumps and the hoses,
I
the
gotcha.
weight limit of that would be able to do both a person and the water or supplies.
Or is there, did they make a trailer for like, something like that?
We could possibly do a trailer. I just think that 98% of our calls are EMS. And at this point, I don't feel the village is in a spot to, not waste, but use money that we could
Foolishly
use
spent.
elsewhere for a brush truck.
You're making an educated guess and a calculated one, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do, that's why I wanted to know, I wanna make sure that all our i's were dotted and our t's are crossed.
Last year at our 4th of July festival, July 3rd festival, Independence Day festival, we did have the lady that broke her leg out by the pavilion, out by the lake. We ended up driving the ambulance back there. I was terrified. I drove it, but there was a possibility of it getting stuck, right? So now we
Oh,
have a spot
God,
to call
yes.
that. This unit would allow us,
Holiday parades, all those type
all.
Anything, any events that go on downtown where they
sign me
got
up
them
for
closed
driving
off.
Is that something we would see around town then?
100%. Yeah, it would be for all events, parades. You may not see it in the parade,
Yeah.
but you would see it
It would be
as a
ready to be
response,
used.
a response vehicle. And as you know, some of the downtown events, they're so congested, this vehicle would allow us easy access. Get the
Get down
patient in,
sidewalks.
get the patient out, get him to the Alpha unit where we could render care.
How do you think we're doing as a community safety-wise? I think we're in a pretty good spot, providing necessary safety to our residents?
There's always room for improvement, right? You know, there are some events that we have downtown that I appreciate Tim, with our new forms. You know, the car show's a big one where the downtown's completely closed with very little accessibility for us. One of the things I wanna see is at least a 20 to 25-foot fire lane for all events, especially in the downtown, so that we can respond in the event of emergency. But I think we do a great job being proactive, but, you know, citizens and people that come in from outside of communities, accidents happen, right? And we just have to be prepared for worst-case scenario for every event. And that's how I try to plan when these special event applications come in.
I'm sold. It's $4,200. Like, I was sold when you first said it.
Oh, yeah, me too,
So-
because
Council, anything else?
Nope.
All right, let's move on.
Thank you.
Building department, take the floor.
So this one, actually, I don't believe there was any increases. I actually had a substantial decrease, well,
The
if you look at the
medical.
overall line, it was a $2,000, from 3,500 to 1,500. And that was every 3 years, we have to buy new books, for the building department, the NEC, which is the National Electric Code, the Michigan Building Code, Rehabilitation Code, the Plumbing Code, Code Enforcement Code. There's just 7 volumes of books, and we made that purchase this year, and in 3 years, we'll have to renew those, but as we sit right now, I didn't have any increases. I had another decrease in memberships. I guess, mechanical inspector, you know, those are third-party contractors that we bring in, so it looks like there was a slight increase of $500 to his pay, but that's really based on permits, right? If we get a surplus of projects in the village, then he would be required to do more inspections. So it's very hard to predict how many permits we're gonna see in a year.
So there's a pattern on both this and the last budget of memberships going down. What's with that?
I think that we really just didn't spend it,
Okay.
and we're comfortable with the memberships that we have now.
So there's nothing you guys are walking away from, or,
Oh, no,
okay.
medical did have a big jump though. From 19, the activity, we're at 28.
That would be adding.
I think that's where we were talking about when we were on the last page.
That's why I wanna make sure we hit that.
and full transparency, I rely a lot on Tim and Lisa for the payroll side of things. Because, you know, I just really just input the numbers into paychecks, and then Lisa's team goes through and actually inputs all that. I don't see a lot of the back end, especially when it comes to FICA or insurance.
Right.
I trust our team.
Leading into payroll, you have a 0 requested budget for part-time.
That's because that Kurt went full-time.
Okay, so that is the difference there, there's no part-time, got it. Perfect.
And a lot of these, the inspector fees, you know, those are all going to be, although there are expenditures, they're gonna be kind of in and outs because we are recouping those fees by charging individuals for them as well. So they're expenditures, but people pay for them, and it covers, you know, Scott or whoever's doing the
Mike Kyle.
inspections. As well as, you know, some administrative fees for, staff for the processing of the requests.
And then council did renew the fee schedule, and a lot of those fees were reflected as an increase due to some of the wages going up for those inspectors. To keep them on our community, we wanted to be the same that Springfield, Brandon, or Groveland were paying those inspectors.
When
for
we
those
get to
same
revenues,
services.
you'll see that there's been increases even in there, even thus far.
Jim?
Thank you. Could you just speak briefly to what the building department is and why our fire chief is in charge of it?
So it's very uncommon, but I'm dual licensed. I was a builder previously, so I have enough CE credits to petition the state to have a building official license. So I took the test 2 Februarys ago, I passed the test, and when Steve McGee left, he was the building official and fire chief. So I believe Brandon is one of the other communities near us that actually has, I'll draw a blank on his name, he's a good friend of mine, I apologize, Jason Will.
I'm telling Jason.
He's the assistant
That's it,
chief
shame on you.
You guys meet at Groveland.
and the building official. So it's very unique to have a building official and a fire chief as a dual role, but it does save the community tens of thousands of dollars where
Nice.
you're not employing two different individuals to do two jobs. I'm doing both those. And we're a small community, so I can balance that.
Council, anything else on this page?
No,
just-
Martin Warp, but we also have Jeff Zilke. I don't know
Okay.
if you know him, but
I'm better with
they
faces.
recently suffered from the town.
Just training, we didn't have nothing allocated and no activity, but then we have $1,000 for it now.
So there is, for me to maintain my CEs in the building side, there's two options. One, I can use an online platform to gain the CEs I'm required to have in an annual year, or there's conventions. Like Kevin was in Iowa, I wouldn't go to Iowa, but they do have one in Bay City every year in May that I will be attending this year. It's roughly $900, and I don't stay. I drive home after the.
I'm not
It's a
like
4 a.m.
severely questioning it, I'm just saying, you know, I
The
just see
CE
it
is
change on it.
continued education.
CE, yes, thank you
Well,
for
and I
that.
feel like last year when we went through this, like a lot of the training budgets got, like we
We
cut
axed
those all
them.
out of everything, so
Yeah.
that might be why we had zero.
We've been careful about it, about anything, but also, yeah, keep in mind that this goes until June 30th, and a lot of these things are in like June and May, is when the events happen. So although there's no activity yet, there will be activity before the end of the fiscal year.
Any more questions on building? Okay, let's move on.
All right, and I think that is all I need from Chief Watson.
I need a 1 minute break. Let's resume in 1 minute.
Appreciate this.
Thank you.
I appreciate the 9% decrease in building.
I'm trying, I really do try.
Okay, we're resuming and we're picking up from data processing.
All right, and so the next,
Thank you, Chief.
next four are gonna be kind of tag team probably between Lisa and I. So let me grab this. And so I can take lead on it, and Lisa, when I say something wrong, just correct me.
Throw something out.
So data processing. All right, so obviously we have a large contractual bump in this. This is, part of this is our BSNA. Our BSNA, we are gonna see increases that are probably gonna be in excess of 50,000. This is just an estimate right now. We don't know if we're gonna have to move over to the cloud system, but almost everyone is at this point. We're kind of holding out until the last moment, until we have to transition over, because it is gonna be a bigger expense. But we've seen with all of our contracts across the board, as far as data processing goes, that the prices have increased quite significantly. So, yes.
I do have a question. So with BSNA right now, we offer complete free access for searches and things. Does that factor into?
We do
this?
not anymore.
No, okay, good.
I believe we changed that, yeah.
We are changing that plan.
We did change, because it was $50 for the year, and now it's just, if you're a resident and you wanna look up your information, that's free, but now if you want to look up somebody else's, you go through BSNA and they have a third party, and then they get charged. So we're like sort of all out of that now.
Okay, very good.
Oh, so it
will
means like I
that-
can't, oh, I'm sorry.
But will that help with some of these costs? Will it mitigate out some of our BSNA costs, or how does that factor in?
Well,
Or
this,
saving?
yeah, so this number reflects this year's activity without that 5,500.
Oh, okay.
So, because we didn't pay it, that was
Right.
due in February, and I signed the
That's the
contract to do the third party.
Okay.
So these, or I should say Tim did, and so these did, that's why that number is that. When I met with BSNA, they, again, every year, we have, service fee or contract, and those numbers are just increasing. And because we're on what they call .NET program, they're trying to do away with, we're grandfathered in on the .NET, but like, as Tim said, they're trying to, in a sense, force everybody to go cloud. And the cloud software is a lot more expensive. We already looked into it, and we just can't afford it right now.
So what steps are they doing to try to force us into it?
They're just not gonna offer support for it any
Yeah.
longer, or upgrades.
A lot of ours is going to be based on when all the surrounding communities, Oakland County, all of them have shifted over. And then, you know, if we're not able to speak to each other essentially, with the state and with the county, that's when we are gonna have to, everyone was supposed to have switched over a couple of years ago. And they keep pushing off the deadline. And we've been dragging our feet on it because there's also been a lot of bugs early on with the cloud version. And so that's been our excuse for not moving over, is because, you know, hey, we don't wanna transition to a broken system until they figure all of that out.
So so I think the township voted to do it, I'm not sure if they've done it yet. They have moved over? So if we don't move over, that's it? They just say, we're not taking your money anymore?
So we Citrix in, which means we remote into the tax system through Oakland County. And Oakland County right now is in talks with BSNA to move to the cloud. However, they haven't done it yet. So again, we're not gonna have to until, even when they do, we don't utilize our other systems like our general ledger or our accounts payable or our utility billing and building. Those don't speak to the Oakland County system. It's all separate. So technically, like I said, we're gonna probably hold out until they say that they're not gonna support us any longer.
So BSNA will not provide the functionality for our system to talk to someone else's system, all within BSNA?
Eventually.
Well, but eventually they won't even give us support. Meaning like they won't upgrade our system, and
Okay.
then we will also, like, I'm just gonna make this up, if we're trying to do a functionality in there right now, we can call BSNA and we can say, hey, we wanna do X, Y, and Z, and then they step us through and help us. But if they do away with that, we're not gonna have that opportunity any longer, if they don't support it any longer.
And that seems weird to me. We're still gonna be paying a fee to them, but they're not gonna support us.
Correct.
That
Okay.
seems like an oxymoron.
This is not only just BSNA though. Also on here is our website hosting. It's some VC3, or who do some of our IT stuff. So there are other expenses. It's not just BSNA that is covered within contractual.
Now, Ms. Cole did bring up the fact of charging for third-party lookups on BSNA. Now, because that was a fee, does council need to approve that at all, or is that something that administration can just do?
A fee?
Well, a fee,
It's BSNA's
It's
fee.
BSNE's fee, we do nothing with it, so when somebody comes out and looks at somebody else's, like, let's just say that there's a title company looking for
Yep.
taxes and utility bills or whatever, they go out to the site and then they are connected to BSNA and BSNA charges them. We don't have anything to do,
so we don't receive any of the income for lookups for third party?
Never have.
and we never did.
Well, there's never been a fee.
Yeah, because we were covering the expense
Oh,
essentially.
I see, okay.
And so, what we did is we had them run like how many of our residents utilize this system, just to compare like of the cost that it costs us in comparison to the expense. And it was, really the only people that use it are realtors, I believe,
Yeah.
primarily. And so it was just decided, hey,
And nosy neighbors,
and nosy neighbors. Yeah, and.
of me.
And yeah, and you. So,
Which is me,
yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So, but like primarily that's who utilized it, so we just saw it as an expense that, is something we could cut out.
So how was it previously? Were we paying per lookup then for something, or was it?
Was it a flat rate?
It was a flat rate.
Yeah.
So then our flat rate has gone down and it's being covered by the individual lookups?
No, that's why we don't.
We just got out of the middle of it.
We're just not contracting, it was a contracted fee of $5,500 a year, and we just did not renew.
We didn't add that additional
Nice move.
feature onto our account.
Thank you for doing that for our village.
Does that affect our FOIA at all? Any kind of FOIAs, or?
No.
No.
So the VC3 contractual stuff, now we are budgeting a little bit more for contractual. Is some of this to cover FOIA costs?
So is VC3, Tim, under data processing, or is it under?
Well, I actually just pulled this up to just check, make sure expenses as we're going, and there are some VC3, let me see.
So I can speak a little bit to
Yep.
VC3 depending on
Yeah,
vendor it
there are
is, but-
some VC3 charges on this. In fact, a lot of it is VC3 charges.
Okay, well, the VC3, so what's going on with VC3 is they are eventually gonna go what's called to dual factor authentication.
Oh, yes.
So for cybersecurity, and, so they're going to get me a quote on talking about that, so that's gonna be an increase. Also, every year, just because of inflation, their contracts raise. They came out and, talked to me and they did an assessment. A couple things too is our server is 2019. And servers only last about 7 to 8 years, so our server is, they're telling us that we're probably gonna eventually have to, replace our server. And he's supposed to be getting me a quote on that, and I think, I sent the information to Tim, do you remember how much I said the server was? I know it was expensive.
Yeah, I would have to look it up.
Yeah,
I
I'd
don't
have to
know.
look it up too. So I'm waiting on that, and then also the other thing that's, ready to go is our firewall. Now, our firewall is about $3,000 to $5,000. Well, there's and I'm trying to look into, right now, MMRMA has technology grants out there. And one of the things is it's called cybersecurity. So again, our firewall is pretty much security, so I'm
What
going-
happens if it fails?
Then everybody has.
Our
has
firewall?
access. Yeah, our firewall is just like everybody has access, and like where there's no privacy, it's just, it's done. So they, I got the quote now, and I'm going to go out to MMRMA and see if I can, apply for this grant. And it's a, 25% match grant, so it'd be 75% them, 25% us. So I'm trying to see if I can get at least the firewall covered.
On the firewall, if that goes down, we can also be hacked,
Yes,
correct?
Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, our
Anybody can get in
security is.
there.
So,
Yeah.
is this something, I don't know how the grants work, so, can you just go ahead and get what you need to get and then ask for the match grant? Even though it's already paid for first, like a 25% reimbursement grant?
Sure, if we have the funds. So, yeah, yes, I mean, that is something I can't, I believe it is a reimbursement grant. I don't believe that it's, that, like, they have to purchase it and then we have to pay them. I believe it is a reimbursement grant.
We've been looking at changing out our IT service provider too. We haven't been too happy with it. We're looking at doing an RFP. Lisa keeps bugging me to write that one up. It's a little bit more complicated of one because of all of the things they do to have an RFP that like really specifies, it, because there's probably things that IT companies out there can do for us that we don't even know about. So we want to write it in a manner that because it'd be a full service provider for these kinds of services for us. So
Any
we're
further
looking at.
questions on data processing? Let's move on to clerk treasurer, and then we'll take a break. A real one, not a 1-minute one. Questions?
I gotta get there. There you go.
Overtime's going up, is there a reason for that?
So the only thing for the overtime is so the union employees, they can choose whether they take comp time or overtime. So I can't, that's my best guess, if they're
Right,
gonna take
okay.
comp time or overtime. So if they're taking the overtime, then I can only guess, it's for the
You're just
union.
making sure you have enough in there in case they do that.
Yep.
Perfect.
Training?
Training is, so, kind of like Tim had said last weekend, contractually, I'm allowed to go annually to the MML training, and I haven't done any of that. And then also, Tessa has requested to go to the MGFOA, which is the Michigan Government Finance Officers Association. They have it's called the Basic Accounting Training. She wanted to go to that, that's about $500.
That's great. And then what about postage supplies? That's kind of a big increase for postage.
Yeah, so we're increasing postage in case, again, if we have to send out all the letters for the special assessments and things like that, that's gonna increase that line item.
And postage has gone up as
Yeah,
well.
postage
Gotcha.
is going up.
Oh, yeah.
For stamps?
Yeah.
What about retirement? Why are we seeing a huge increase? Like, we've only used 19 and now we're up to 94.
So Tim wanted to do a bigger delve into that.
Yep.
Because technically, the one union person was coming all out of that, and we may be now breaking that up because that person is not all clerk. She's broke up between clerk and I think water and sewer. So in our system right now, we're probably breaking it water, sewer.
I left it high on this because I did not want to activity, and then us to go back when we do a deep dive and be like, oh no, we should have, because it is representative of, these are the unfunded pension liabilities that we have, that we're, you know, even though it's a retirement for only a few people, it is, it's all of that retirement debt, or that unfunded pension liability that they're having to pay off on some of these. And because one of them, those, even though it might be just one person here, that's still covering for, you know, not Debbie, but like, you know, the other people that have since retired from that account, which is the same Teamsters one as DPW and some others, so just representative. So we're, and when Lisa and I talked about it earlier this week, I said that's what was specific one that we need to deep dive in to make sure that that they're being, that we are pulling it from the correct accounts for this.
We don't, what percentage we have to fund it to?
Well,
110.
110% is, and which we're scheduled to get to at 2040. Right now, we're at 62%, and that's until we stop making payments at 110%.
And that number
Funded.
potentially could go down, and the reason I'm saying that 62% is because of the current grievance that you guys just approved in the last meeting, so those wages will go into, I'll call it the actuarial figure, and so then we're gonna be paying that, but again, it's gonna be spread out, so when you spread it out like that, your percentage goes down.
And then printing publications?
Printing and publications, two things. Number one, again, special assessment, because again, we have to post that in the paper. And also,
Does that cover like special meetings too?
special meetings, I don't
Yeah,
post in the paper. Special meetings, I just put on the board and I put out through Gov Delivery. But I mean, your public hearings have to be posted in the paper. They must. So, and I got like, and again, all the, we'll just say it, like all the letters and all the stuff that goes out with the special assessment, you've got your paper, your envelopes, your, you know, all of that. So those increase.
Now, likewise for the DDA, it was suggested to break them out into further details for advertising. Is that something that we need to break out under printing and publications, like one line for notices or one line for anything else, or is this acceptable?
Well, one of the other problems is that we have, you know, the agenda packets went from, you know, historically being 30 pages to
150?
now being 500 pages. And so that's what we talked about, you know, cutting back on some of the, you know, we won't necessarily print out all of the financial details, it'll be on the digital version, you know, to cut a couple hundred pages off of those. But there's still long documents that we, in the past, never got printed out.
But I think my question primarily dealt with, is this specific enough for what the clerk treasurer was talking about though? Because we were saying the DDA needed to be more specific.
I mean, we
need
can,
to be more specific as
any
well.
of these we can break out into like, you know, footnotes and that's kind of, we already have a little bit of that data, you know, to talk about like what specifically these things are. As far as, do I believe we need to create additional line items? I don't think that is
No.
necessary.
Okay.
But as far as any of these items that council wants to say, hey, what does this look like? We have like footnotes to like discuss, like, so we can talk about.
And again, to, you know, say what you're saying about the DDA, they're very vague. They have a very vague number, like promotions. But now you've got all these things going into promotions. You've got advertising, you've got people getting paid lunches, you know. Those are all different things. This is pretty, you know, self-explanatory. It's printing and publications. I'm doing printing and I'm putting publications in the newspaper. I mean, it's,
So it's apples and
Right.
oranges?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What about audit services? That one
Audit
took a heck of a
services,
jump.
that should be to be determined. I don't
Yeah.
know why he's got 50,000 in.
Well, I wonder if that's
It was, we were just throwing a number out there because we haven't picked an auditor yet. It was
Okay,
just,
that's what I thought. I figured because we were,
I think the total we saw was 50 grand for the audits, wasn't it?
Well, it was 50 grand for just the normal audit. Remember, there was all the other GASB and all that. Our audit was way more than 50 grand this year.
I mean, for the proposals we received.
Oh, the proposals we received, it was more than 50 grand, yeah. They were, I think, 54,
For-
52?
yeah.
I can't remember exactly.
Anything else on clerk treasurer?
she needs a raise.
Well, yeah, we know.
We're not our new contract yet.
Take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 11 on our phones, not 11 on that
Can
clock.
we get that clock fixed? It's a.
We can't afford
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jeremy.
Jeremy.
I want lunch.
Donuts?
All right.
Are we live?
Yep. Community development.
All
So we're
right.
going with clerk treasurer now, right?
Welcome back. We are on community development.
Whoa. Why was there?
All right, so that's an enormous decrease.
Let me go back up to it.
So we went from 84,000 to 16,000. Let's see, and the biggest portion was the, CDBG. So,
And, yeah, so the
Okay.
reason that is, the expenditures haven't been addressed on there is, because we are gonna have CDB expenditures, but it's gonna be in and out funds.
Okay.
We have money we have to spend from previous years, but it's money that we spend and then we get directly reimbursed for those monies. So we don't, it's kind of hard to say exactly what those amounts will be yet. It's not going to be zero, it's going to be, but like for code enforcement, it's, I don't want to say that we're spending, $40,000 on something right now, but it's something that we've been projecting out since 2019, for those amounts. So again, because it's in and out, I was just expressing that as a zero right now, because it's an expense that we would do, and it would get reimbursed to us.
I still think that, just
Yeah, go ahead.
from my standpoint, I still think we need to put something in there.
Yep.
Because we still reprogram the money to code enforcement, and each month we are expensing it out, and then we're getting it reimbursed through a revenue item. So I think we should still put something in there, because we still, just so everyone knows, we still have about, I'm guessing like about $53,000 in CDBG monies from the past that we have to use.
Yep.
And we're looking at potentially, right now, maybe reprogramming that money again for fire hydrants. So, but we don't know yet, because we're still going through the.
And if you look at the revenue line, when we get to revenue line items, you'll see that line item zeroed out as well, because I'm not, even though would get that money in, whatever the expenditures would be, it would be in and out. So just for purposes of budgeting, I was gonna say that it really is a non-issue as far as, because we aren't, it's not like we can adjust it one way or another, because it's gonna be an expense we have that gets reimbursed from CDBG. Again, we might spend 20, 30, 40,000 on it, but it's all money that would be reimbursed back. So, until we kind of figure that out, I didn't want to put any specific numbers on there.
council just approved an expense for the mill pond for $36,000. Does that need to be reflected on here?
That would be in this fiscal year, and it's also from,
It's also from the, you guys have an assigned fund balance.
The assigned, okay. Any other questions,
What is-
council?
Why is professional services got a credit of almost $5,500 though?
let me look at why that is.
While he's looking for that,
I'm just wondering for like the mill pond dam expenses, are we expecting any more costs next fiscal year for like the legal lake level stuff?
If we are, then it's gonna go out of that assigned fund balance.
Okay.
It doesn't come over general then? Okay.
Well, it is general, it's assigned fund balance in general. If there's an assigned amount, I believe there's like 100,000 or something in there, so we'll be using that money for that.
I mean, it doesn't come out of like the general for, I mean, it comes out of the general, but it comes out of their general or out of our general. That
Almost
makes
like
sense.
past.
Yeah, I understand where
Yeah.
I understand where he's going to. Yeah,
It's coming out of designated funds for them.
yes, there's already another line item that has that.
Exact, thank you, yes, I couldn't.
That's what I was
think
just asking, because I see the mill pond expenses
Exactly.
on that right there, so I was a little confused, that's all.
Nope, valid question.
And the only reason why I was concerned about professional services is just because I'm like 24, 25, we had 4,800, and then this year now we're at a credit, and then we want to amend 5,500 again. Which I'm just curious as to, did we fire somebody or something not?
Give me just I'm looking it up right now.
I'm
Okay.
not trying to put you in a spot there, Tim.
No,
so
that's-
let's
that's
ask Lisa if, while he's looking that up, does anyone else have any other questions about community development? Then in that case, while Tim's looking that up, put that aside and let's move to the next page for non-departmental. Lisa, administration fees and charges went up $5,000.
So the reason that it's like that right now in activity is because of escrow amounts. So people that have done work or they put money in an escrow account for their site plans, things for community development, for example, like scooters or whatnot. They put money into that account that hasn't necessarily been expensed out to the, when we do a row invoice for them or whatnot, it hasn't been.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So that's what it looks like. I mean, and just from looking at the general ledger,
And
From the 5,000, not from what April just asked?
No, from the professional services, right?
professional services, yep. The reason that it's a credit on there rather than an expense, why do we have extra money in there for activity? It's because people have put money, because we've done a new requirement, rather than us footing the bill for them in advance, we've required people to put money in escrow in order to cover the expenses before.
You answered Daniel's question, and I was thinking you were answering April's.
Oh,
So
sorry.
that was all.
And that's a new item too, correct? Didn't used to be escrow accounts in this matter.
We didn't, we are getting a lot more proactive, so, because in the past, we were, footing the bill for a lot of things, because, they would, it would go to planning commission and it'd get dropped, and then they didn't want to pay the bill because, it got denied or whatnot, so now we're making them put money in escrow, for our engineering services and all that.
And I think that's one of the nice changes that, I don't know who did that or came up with it, but
Yeah, it's
one of
Lisa,
you guys,
yeah.
so thank you for doing that,
Should-
saving our taxpayers' money.
Should we put that as an escrow line instead of just a professional services line?
We do have escrow lines.
No, I'm saying under community development one.
It's not under community development. They have their own escrow lines under trust and agency 103 fund. So the new ones that we're using, I think I'll just put some names out there, like Michigan Credit Union, Trilogy. There's actual escrow lines, that's where we put their money. So now when the bills come in from Row, now we're taking it out of those escrow monies.
Okay.
These were escrow monies that we recouped from previous.
Okay, yeah, because I can see there were like 4 of them from scooters, for example, that, so it's probably a back payment of what, so.
the
There
credit
will
is-
probably have some, journal entries that Lisa will do to make sure that, that's correcting, making sure they're all in the right departments. But again, yeah, these are, like 4 of them, one for $1,300 from scooters, $70, $1,800, $250, for example. This one, like Quilt Shop put one in as
So
well.
like, all of those names that he's giving as examples, none of them had escrows. So what happened is we spent the money, and then now when they paid us, I had to put it against this because it really wasn't a cost to us. It was an in and an out.
Right,
It's a pass-through.
right.
Now we have an escrow account set up for projects. Now that's not gonna touch this line item, it's gonna touch the escrow account.
Oh, so it will no longer show up, didn't you say?
Yeah, I
that?
don't know what the $5,500, I know Tim had put that in there, but I don't know, unless there's some professional services that we're going to, utilize for.
Yeah, I think if we were using the escrow accounts properly, this might be a line item that gets zeroed out because we're now doing it correctly. Some of these, again, were just initial, we had a lot of moving pieces as we're doing this budget, and so this may be one that ends up just being a zero line item because it's just, again, in and out.
Okay, any further questions on community development? All right, head back over to non-departmental, and Lisa, administrative fees and charges went up 5,000.
So the administrative fee and charges, for non-departmental, so what happens is this the one, Tim, that we do a journal entry, because I see activity.
Yeah, I'm
right
gonna
now.
go over there and check it out.
Oh, I'm sorry, is this this is the, vehicle, equipment rentals. So, I think we were talking about this last Saturday, remember, I don't know if it was Tom or Daniel, I don't know, one of you guys brought up about how come there's not fuel charges on one of these line items, and I said, well, because we do a journal entry where we take, and we charge them for the amount of time that they use for this. I think that this could be that, but I'm not sure. As soon as Tim brings it up, I can
Yeah,
let
I'm
you
having,
know.
so I get sometimes ocular migraines, and so I'm having to use my peripherals to find things right now because I'm starting to get one, so.
Sorry.
Utilities was an enormous jump, but we don't really have much say in that. And then insurance went up a couple grand.
I am gonna talk about Haya when we get
There
to
you go.
it.
I was
Okay.
gonna say
I got you,
something.
Buster.
Wow.
I am gonna advocate for us allocating some sort of CDBG funds to HIA. I understand that we can't necessarily fund them in the way that some of the townships do, where they are just giving them an unlabeled amount, whereas we have historically given CDBG funds, but I think we need to contribute to that also.
So I have two comments about that. So number one, so for this fiscal year, the deadline to submit our application was in December. And Tim and I decided not to ask for any CDBG funds for this fiscal year because we still had monies we had not used in the past. And we have I'm trying to think of what's that.
We have to maintain a ratio.
Maintain the ratio.
So if we don't maintain a ratio, we will not be able to draw, and so, like I said, there's money we haven't spent from 2019. And so every year when we take money for new things, we can't, we can't get it anymore. I asked Haya, I sent a message out, and I don't think they've responded back, I'll double check, but I essentially said, hey, we're in budget season, we're looking at, how we can actually support you doing this, but there are certain, reporting requirements that we'll need back from you, as far as this, and this, as we've done in the past. Are you guys willing to do that, to meet those reporting requirements? And I don't think I ever received a response back. I can look at when I sent that just in a second. The administration fees and charge, it looks like it's actually paycheck charges.
Oh, paychecks.
So it's from our
Yes.
paychecks.
So because we farm out our payroll company, that's the invoices that they charge us for the payroll.
Holy crap.
It's like an ADP.
Yeah.
So for taxes and assessments, that's what we would pay to the township for our stuff, so when it said maybe we can't talk to the assessor because that's hired by the township, in truth, we are actually paying that assessor?
No,
or
the taxes are on, okay, I'm gonna get this wrong, but is there a Patterson drain or something like that?
Yes.
There's these drains,
The Patterson drain.
Yeah, there's these drain, we get once a year from the township for these, I'll call them drains, and it's, I know that was over $6,000 of that money.
Okay.
And then I believe there is, because again, as a municipality, we don't pay taxes, but we do have to pay, because I think that's a special assessment.
Okay,
And that's paid to Oakland County. I think we pay the township, and the township pays
Oakland
county.
County.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I sent the message to Haya saying, I'm currently working to find some creative solutions. If we're able to continue to provide funding, it most likely have to come from CDBG funding. If we were able to provide you $3,500, would you be able to provide the invoicing requirements that CDBG has? I sent that message on March 2nd, and I never received a response. And I sent it to 3 members of Haya as well as Lisa.
And just so you know too, is CDBG has, I'll just say, increased their reporting capabilities, and they now are even getting more diverse with it, because they wanna know the nationality and the gender and how many people, and, I mean, it's really, again, because right now we also, have monies assigned to neighbor, so when we have, I'm just saying that somebody can't pay their water bill, so they go to neighbor, and neighbor pays it. They have, that's what they ask us that they have to do specific criteria on this. So in the past, Haya would only say, well, we gave driver's ed to 3 high school students. That's not good enough for the reporting to CDBG. So if then we gave $3,500 to Haya, then we wouldn't get that reimbursed. We have to have all the reporting requirements in order to get those monies reimbursed.
So,
And I've reached out to other communities who fund their essential Haya, whether it's Akaya or Brandon does Abaya and all of those. They do, Clarkston gives CDBG funds to their Haya organization. Us offering that and them turning in that reporting is not an unheard of task. That is actually common practice in these youth area system leagues, at least from my research that I found. There's very few that are just here's $3,500.
My concern with just giving the money is because that's against Public Act 2. So Public Act 2, for our financing, we can't extend our credit, the money of the village residents, to another municipality, to any other agency, without it being contracted services or showing how the money is being spent within our community. So we can't just give them $3,500 without showing that it's actually being utilized within our community. That's why the CDBG standards are there, that's why, like, unless it was, we were contractually doing something, they have an office here that we're supporting them in some manner, but since it is a broader thing, that's why the reporting requirements are not only important for CDBG, but it's also important for us, in order to meet, the standards that the Department of Treasury have too,
Okay.
for audit purposes.
Quick summary, the answer is yes. Buster is our liaison. You can reach out to them and let them know they just need to fulfill the Public Act 2 requirements. It's pretty simple.
But it won't be on this, but it won't be on this year's budget because we've passed that deadline.
Right.
However,
No, I'm looking for the 26-27. That's still going forward. 26-27 requested budget is a zero.
Yeah, we would be
Right.
requesting it
It'll be a
this.
zero, so then it'll be the next year's, it'll have to be 27-28.
Well, we could still request the money at the end of this year for it. So if they're telling us this is what
But
they
it
want to
won't
do.
be until the following year,
Yeah.
they're always a year behind, that's what I'm trying to.
And we might be able to reprogram stuff too, and we've talked to them about reprogramming.
Let's
some
just
of
get
the
them
money.
on the paperwork.
Yeah, I mean,
Get 'em on the
it's been
paperwork.
2 years that we have ignored this, so I do think, I felt like I had no idea that we weren't funding last year, so as a liaison there, I dropped that ball in advocating, but this year, we knew that we didn't give them anything last year, or not going forward into this year, not offering something, so we have to figure out something.
And
No.
I don't know that we can reprogram into the public service fund.
So let's not make
We
any
have-
promises.
No
I've been having
promises,
conversations with them
but we
about
haven't
it, so.
do it yet.
yeah.
Let's just get them working on the paperwork so that we can help support them,
Absolutely.
getting help going forward, and we'll see what deadline they do or don't fall into from that point.
Then have them get back with Tim.
And they have to be willing
Yes,
to do it.
yes, if they
There's
don't
no
answer,
answer
they
back
don't
yet.
answer. You
Right,
can't-
so,
yeah.
but Buster, you can ask them
I'll do that.
to
I'll do
go
that
back
at
and
the
look at that
meeting.
email, right?
And I just forwarded it to Buster, Shannon.
Does our township contribute to HIA?
Yes, they
Yes.
do, on our behalf as township.
That's what I'm saying, so we as residents are still contributing to HIA.
Yes,
So we will be doubling, as a village now, our residents will be doubling to HIA, so.
right.
So why have we not spent CDGB funds? Why do we still have them available since 2019? What's going on
So,
with that?
all right, so there's been things that we've had, like, for example, for a long time, we had sidewalk money. That we submitted bids out to do like a sidewalk program. But the problem is, when you're using CDBG, you have all the additional requirements like that. So we have to do prevailing wages, we have to do the Davis-Bacon. I keep wanting to say Kevin Bacon every time I do that. And so there's a lot of requirements. So a project that would maybe cost us $40,000 is actually $80,000. And so many people won't bid on it because they don't want to do the requirements. And also, it just is a very expensive, so anytime that we have a project, we just can't do it at scale enough because there's not enough money in order to meet the scale that is required in order to do any kind of project. So the money has just sat. And so last year, we reprogrammed some of that money into code enforcement. We've been doing code enforcement, but the amount that we are able to expend is not the level of which, like, we can actually pay it off. Like, we have a lot of money we're supposed to spend this month and next month in order to meet that ratio requirement. They've been very gracious to us so far about those ratios, but for us to continue to take in more money, it's, it's not money that's sent to us until we actually spend it and we get reimbursed.
And the other thing, if I can just jump
yeah.
in with the code enforcement, so the code enforcement is, the monies for the CDBG is not for the whole entire village.
Yep.
We have shaded areas that we can only utilize. So even though we're doing code enforcement in other areas, I can't recoup those monies because I can only go in the shaded.
Yeah, and the shady areas, essentially it's north of Elm Street is kind of like
So-
the general line.
My take on that whole process is, if, for instance, we're doing sidewalks and it's going to be a smaller project, there are times where I know we're doing catch basins or rebuilding out maybe not a whole catch basin, but definitely rebuilding out the concrete around the drainage. Right, and if that's happening, we already have a contractor coming in to do it, and it's probably the same guy we've used for.
The problem is, when they did the actual thing, it's for specific, like, sections and stuff, when they
Sure.
actually did the contract. So it's, when they submit it, it's for this amount of sidewalk here, for this distance of feet that we're gonna do. So it's not a general fund for sidewalks, it's, for
A
this.
specific
project.
area.
Like, for example, we have, like this, we're gonna be spending some on ADA accessible equipment at Lakeside Park. For benches and tables and things like that. But it's specifically for that park. So we have to even though we have newer equipment in Lakeside Park, we may have to put the new equipment in Lakeside Park and take the stuff out of Lakeside Park we currently have to put them in other parks because it meets that requirement within the CDBG district. And, you know, so it is a game in many ways as far as.
I would love to see us win this game and not have to turn down free money essentially. And I think Mr. Burton was the one in the township that has previously advocated for cooperation between the village and township. And if my understanding is correct, if we come together and do it, our population's higher. This is a couple of years now. Our population's higher, so potentially we could get more money. So if that's something staff is interested in doing too.
There's another CDBG meeting soon, like at the end of this month, I believe.
Mr. Burton is knowledgeable too.
Well, the CDBG requirements have all changed too. It's like, this last year, they went for an all-online system. It's completely different. It's not even, like anything that we had personal touch before is kind of gone. It's all like on a online spreadsheet basically that they do, so.
It's a company that they
Yeah.
contracted, I can't think of the name of the company
Neighborly?
right now. Neighborly, yes, yeah. So
Do we-
now Neighborly does all of that, it's not through the Oakland County, it's through Neighborly.
Do you think we could set a goal to, I don't know, zero out CDBG funds or get rid of?
That's been our goal, that we've been trying.
Yeah.
Like, we've been looking, we've had lots of conversations about, whether or not we can use it on demolition of like, some projects. But every time we have looked at anything, like, there's just so many additional requirements. Every time we go down a rabbit hole trying to figure out, all right, we'd like to do it with this, we see CDBG has so many requirements for it. And
There's a checklist for every, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but there's a checklist for every item. So like when we try to do demolition, there's asbestos, there's soil erosion, there's all this other stuff that we have to pay for in order to utilize to
Yeah.
get like only maybe $20,000. So, and then the same thing with the Davis Bacon. The Davis Bacon, that's the problem is, this packet is like this thick, it's huge. And most contractors say, I don't have time to fill all that out.
And only a certain percentage, not only for us, but the county can be used for public service ones. So there's public service and then there's projects. So public service is HIA. I mean, it could be like, that's what we would pull the money for, but we've been using it for neighbor to neighbor. So that's for people that can't afford to pay their water bills, to keep their utilities on, that is what we've been using that money, our percentage based that we can. It's not like we're not using the money that would have once gone to HIA. We're using it, the council chose previously to switch it over to do neighbor to neighbor, to fund those activities rather than HIA for that small percentage that we have, the 3,500. So if we switch over to doing HIA, then we're not doing neighbor to neighbor, so we're not helping out people with water bills.
We used to make a choice
Yeah, I was gonna
every
say,
year. And
yeah.
to go back to Councilman Cascalla's point, yes, as residents, we do contribute to the township's contribution to HIA because we're residents of the township. But also, I feel like HIA deserves more. And I know that this council previously agreed, the majority, and the majority of the previous councils agreed as well. So if we can get them to be willing to, and I understand the paperwork can be a real pain in the butt, but if we can get them to start doing that, I'm happy to support them. And, oh, busted. Anything else on non-departmental? All right, moving on to solid waste.
All right.
Our pumps are broken. No.
This is not, so solid waste is actually trash.
Yeah, this is your garbage.
Oh,
Imagine you
everybody's
fired that for this
favorite.
price.
So if you're putting if you're putting
I
it down
have-
the pumps, then-
Okay, I have no questions. Council?
I think we should try to find a
Question.
better bid.
So,
We're in a contract.
We're in a contract, yeah.
so I don't think there's many outs in the contract. Has attorney looked at that, for instance?
So-
I think when I looked at it, our RFP does not match the contract at all that we signed. So for instance, the RFP says the trucks must be within 5 years old. They must do this, the times and everything else. And the contract just says, yes, or doesn't even do that. That was before your time, but.
I've looked at it because I know that has been a concern, and so the reasons for termination would have to be, and again, this is just trying to remember. It was like we have to establish that they've been violating the contract, and that we've notified them that they violated the contract, and they haven't made any kind of remedies. However, anytime, I know that people are unhappy with the service, we've been unhappy with the service, but anytime we've reached out to our representative and said, hey, this is the issue. They've actually been pretty timely about getting back to us. People say, hey, they didn't pick up my trash. They'll send us camera footage back showing that the person didn't have their trash can out, and things like this. I personally noticed things like, hey, you let trash go in the road. I've contacted them, and they've sent a truck out to pick it up. So I have not seen any smoking guns that violate the terms of the contract. Now, whether it met the RFP standards is kind of irrelevant once council has approved the contract.
And
Because-
so the more, if people listening or councilmen that are scoffing over there in the corner see that they're violating somewhere, you need to call it in, because then Tim can have it on record. If they don't remedy within 30 days, that counts as a violation, and after a certain pattern is, reached, at that point, we can consider breaking our contract. But if we don't have a record of these things, there's nothing to stand on to break this contract.
And I can see if I can pull the contract.
There's another big complaint that was coming into the office, was the fact that they were having a hard time getting the, rolling cans, or receptacles, and that was a national back order. So with that point, I don't think that we can hold them responsible for something that if they're not making the cans and they can't get them.
No, I'm scoffing over here because I've watched them dump my neighbor's trash, I watched them dump all down my street, and they just don't care if it falls out of the truck or not, they just dump it.
Did you report it?
No, that's my fault.
Yep, just start,
Shame on me.
make reports in the future, and then still, they have 30 days to remedy. So,
I think one of the issues though is, I've called in, and I've done it on the reverse, where I've said, my cameras show the cans were out there, and they have come and pick it up, but we're still paying a staff member to reach out to them to say, hey, you guys have messed up. Hey, you guys have messed up. And how many hours is that eating into our staff's day to do everything else they have to do?
How many times we gotta call them and repeated the same problem? Hey, you messed up.
So that's what I'm saying. If
Well,
the terms of the,
nobody's calling.
if nobody's reporting
We
it,
can't break it because
there's
they're
not-
not getting the calls.
yeah.
We're not paying a staff member to take them if they're not.
well, I'm just saying, I have called in multiple times.
So, okay,
So, well, she said that also that people have called in, or I believe Mr. Manager said, that people have called in saying something and it was proved wrong. So people are calling in, I think.
Good, I hope so, because
And
then
if
we
that's the case, do we have,
have enough.
They have also offered a website now, and we have given that out. And I'll tell you, my staff has seen now less phone calls because of it. So the people can make their complaints directly to the trash company.
if
But I guess-
if the people make the complaints directly to the trash company, does that count for the pattern of repeated violations and creating that pathway for us to break a contract?
so I've got the contract up right now, and I'm just reading through it. And so under termination, the village shall have the right to terminate the contract upon written notice to contractor. If contractor is adjudged bankrupt, makes general assignment for the benefit of creditors or others. If receiver is appointed to manage contractor, if the contractor refuses to supply enough labor, material, or equipment to maintain collections, fails to make prompt pickup of materials, disregards of the law of state of Michigan and the ordinance of the village Holly, or otherwise be guilty of a substantial violation of any provision of the contract, contractor shall have 30 days to cure the alleged defaults. The 30 days of the period shall begin 1 day after the notice is placed in mail or on the date the notice is affixed or personally delivered. If contractor fails to cure said defaults within the time set forth in this agreement, the village may terminate the contract upon written notice for cause and without prejudice to any other right or remedy, award a contract to any other party. So we would literally have to send them a notice saying that, this is the issue, you have 30 days to do it. Now, how my experience with him has been, I've emailed our representative Brett, and he's responded usually within a couple hours, and he has a truck out there and is taking care of it.
And how many of the same offense can they have?
None of that is covered. As long as they're remedying it, that's part of the contract.
That doesn't seem right to me at all.
Well, council signed the contract with them.
Not this.
So, and again, this was 2024, and it's till June 30th, 2029.
And I wanna say, as the council that did, as somebody that did sign that contract, I think we only had 2 contracts.
And Republic was probably a lot more expensive. too,
Priority
too.
and
And
Republic.
you're also leaning on administration and
Yep.
attorney to go through.
Oh,
the
I'm not
contract.
blaming you guys or really the other administration. It's just, obviously.
Well, our whole purpose for going with them was to save money. We were, we were trying to be,
Save quality.
Leaving the
Right.
garbage can out in the road.
And right now,
Then
because
they
I
say,
work within
"No, I gotta
the
dodge the
disposal
bottle. No, I
industry, we do
gotta
a lot of
dodge the
skills for them,
cans."
and so you're gonna see a lot of shakeup within that industry here in the next couple of years, where you're gonna have that, and I know with these guys, Priority had bought, I wanna say from GFL, and they bought their used equipment, and that's what they're dealing with right now. They're a company that bought the used equipment of another company, and now are having to make those repairs and stuff on them. Not trying to defend them too much, but just a little backstory on
I mean,
that.
I can give them too. Their truck broke down right in front of my house, and they had to like change tires and do all this stuff.
what a
and they
stinky spot.
completely cleaned up after themselves, like you would have never known they were there.
And again, we also have to keep in mind that they were, I believe, the lowest bid, and even if we look at comparative rates for other communities, you know, if we were to switch to Republic, for example, then it increases the cost, how much residents have to pay and all that. So if it's, I know that a lot of them have said they would rather be paying more, but is that at scale? Is that true for the entire community, or is it just a few people saying that?
Or in 2029,
Yeah.
we let everybody pay for their own garbage.
We're doing that now.
But I mean, like, you pick your own company.
Oh, we don't.
Is there any more
You can
questions?
just choose what day they have to
We
give
have a
it.
lot of companies come through on different days.
I'm doing it. It's
Nope,
horrible.
you can
Oh,
specify
gosh, here come another flood.
on what days they come through.
So we're locked into a contract now. Are there any other questions about
So-
solid waste? Obviously, Tim's gonna have his
Yes.
eye on the violations.
Question. I believe it was Municipal Analytics said that we're undercharging.
That's why we've increased the amount on
Is-
there.
Will that be enough then?
I mean, so we're not supposed to be making, like, so that's an estimate, right? We're not supposed to be making money off of it, it's supposed to be breaking even, and so we're having to,
The fuel surcharge and everything that they charge us?
we're trying to hit it, you know, the nail on the head on it, as close as possible without, you know, subsidizing it from anywhere else. So, again, that's not a finalized number, that's just a best guess about what it would be exactly at the end of the year.
So we're not supposed to make money, but at the end of the year, can that account have a balance?
It's hard because that money has come from a special assessment that is done for each individual parcel that gets pays towards this. So it's not like the next year, it's very difficult to, I would have to,
Because my concern is if we're still pulling money out of the general fund to fund what
Yeah.
residents are expecting to pay for, it would make more sense to me to overestimate a little bit and then just say next year we can apply it forward. So we're never actually putting it into the general fund, we're just making sure it stays there.
So I'm not understanding the question, because what we do is, so Priority charges us per resident. So I'm just making this up, like, it was, you know, $250 for, that's what we special assess on the taxes. So $250 per person, so we charge $250 for address. So I'm trying to figure out where's the extra cost coming in.
I'm
maybe that's
guessing
what
there's gonna be a
we've
fuel surcharge in there, so if fuel goes up $40 a gallon, let's just say, they're not gonna say you're still only paying $250 per house. So there's gotta be something
because
in
Municipal
there.
Analytics said we were short on this. So that's something we need to talk to John about more and maybe
Yeah.
adjust it. That's where I did the adjustments based off and like just projecting out for the next, you know, fiscal year.
I thought he said we were short on wastewater, not solid
No,
waste.
he said
Now-
solid waste too.
Oh.
Refuse is I think what he called it, but yeah.
With the solid waste, how are they configuring what to charge each resident? Are they just basic, like Jim might have one can where,
It's in the
Yeah.
contract.
It's unlimited cans.
It's in the contract, it's by address.
are they charging us by the ton of garbage that goes out?
No, it's.
No, they're just charging you per house.
Flat
Per
rate.
house.
Flat
$250.
rate.
Flat fee per house.
Flat fee.
So I could put 300 cans out and they have to pick all 300 up.
You would be my neighbor, yes.
No, there are restrictions within the contract on that.
Just
You
one
only get one
large
large item
Make
though.
sure it's
Yeah.
299 small items, one large.
No, they don't even take the one large item.
I mean, would
If
that
you
make
call
sense
and
though? 'Cause I know-
Prioritize it.
I know previously we've talked about, how do we get $10,000 for this project, we don't have it, so if we can make sure we're saving all the money in our general fund, instead of reimbursing for solid waste.
I think it's something that needs to be, because theoretically, like what Lisa is saying is correct, is that, like, if we have a flat, like, this is how many parcels we have, and this is how much, you know, every parcel gets charged. I don't know if the reason that it's a shortage is it's not accounting people that are delinquent on taxes. So our activity isn't showing that, you know, like, so if 100 parcels don't pay their taxes, and so we don't see the activity in there. Is that the reason why it's a shortage? And so if that, why would increasing the rates for everyone else, because we'll get that money eventually through other means.
So for instance, if that is the case, we go
Again, these are.
Okay,
assumptions.
sure, I'm just for spitballing here. So if that's the case, money comes from the general fund to solid waste. Then does it come back from solid waste back to the general fund once they pay their taxes?
So you see where it says tax adjustment for prior years? So that's gonna come into that line item, because what happens is, Oakland County, after we do the tax settlement, they don't make us whole until, I believe it's July. So that's already into our next year. So you're gonna look at this being not, this is gonna be in a deficit because we haven't gotten that money yet. So that's gonna be sitting there.
I think this just requires further conversations with municipal analytics and what they're looking at when they're saying we have a shortfall on it, and
Yeah, the only
specific
other
recommendations.
thing, the only other thing
I
that
can
I
pull up
can
that slide
think of
deck, too.
too, is just off the top of my head, is, cause something happened here the other day and I was thinking about this. So there's a list of addresses that we hand over to Oakland County for the special assessment. Now, for example, if you get new people that come in that are gonna get a receptacle, priority's going out and doing that, but my question is it again, is it an issue within our administration that are we now adding that address to our list for the special assessment? Because that's the other thing too, is if somebody's getting garbage now, they're not on the tax roll until the following year. Because the assessors don't put them into the system, so we can't charge an address that's not in the system.
Because if I remember correctly, municipal elements was like 30 grand. They said we're 30 grand. So, okay, 20 grand.
Okay.
Whatever, and that's a lot though, at
Yeah.
$250 per house. So, I just think that the general fund is where that's really gonna benefit everybody. If we're having to pay for our garbage here because someone is not being charged enough, or there's something going on with it that it could come back to bite us, like, if we need to, you know.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull those slides right now.
Pay the 30 gram stuff discount for doing everything at once.
But what, also, could we charge them a fee for being our our garbage company, like Auburn Hills, do you ever see on the side of the trucks where they say like Auburn Hills refuge pickup license, blah, 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 year to blah, 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 year?
In a new contract, sure, but you can't rewrite a contract.
Well, I'm just saying, because like, to cover wear and tear of roads and wear and tear and stuff, and, cause you see Royal Oak, Auburn Hills.
So it may be what Ms. Cole said, that they don't have one particular contractor.
Right, or some communities, I think, do their own trash
Yeah.
collection,
So
so.
all that they said was revenues are just shy of expenditures and fund balance at zero. General funds must subsidize any shortfall. Rates should be adjusted slightly to ensure revenues are sufficient to fully fund solid waste services. And let me see if I can actually look at the math on that too. What number is this? This is 226. So,
We're at what, 13 minutes before we go over noon?
well, I think 9, 10, 11, 12. 1 is our,
One is ours,
Yeah.
okay, just wanted to make sure. we're-
that's just wishful thinking.
Good job tracking.
Yeah.
I thought it was one too. I don't remember anything.
Well, the general fund is where I feel like
Yeah.
we haven't, I'm not in
Yeah.
the solid refuse issue, this is.
Assumptions, review.
What are you looking up right now, Tim?
We can move on. I was trying to find out specifically where he might be pulling that data from. So it looks like, all right, so in looking at some historical data, revenue versus expenditure, solid waste fund. So 25, there was, the revenue was 449,000, the expenditures were 479,000. The year before it, it was a shortage of 4,000. The year before that, it was 26,000. This last year, or projected out, based on what we did, the difference is $2,000.
Okay.
Or not even, that's, the difference is, yeah, like $1,500 is the difference.
I remember we've had talks about how do we get 10 grand to do a project.
Well, what I'm saying is like our projections that we're doing now and that we are assessing for it is the difference of like $1,500 in comparison to 2 years ago where it was a difference of $26,000 of the like, so we're close. We're getting in there, narrowing it in. But yeah, but we would like to get it to zero. I don't know if that will ever get there without being unfair to residents with overcharging them for services, until we like, ideally.
So I'm still trying, how could it be unfair to anybody if it still stays in the fund and it always goes toward that bill?
so I guess, so if, where I, and then, again, this is, just spitballing. If Republic Service says that that it will cost for a resident $275 a year, how could we charge them $300 when we already know what the expense is per resident for that?
Well, and this $1,500 is change per our 6,500 residents. That would be a change difference.
It'll be like 6 residents, right, 250?
I'm not,
Yeah, it's about 6 residents.
But what she's saying is if you split that up
How,
between
so
all
now
of
it's
the
gonna be
residents-
$250.15 per person. I'm making up the number 15 cents, obviously, but I mean, we're really close here, so.
All I'm saying, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but all I'm saying is we need to find those 6 residents that we're not
Yeah.
charging for. That's what it is in a
yeah,
nutshell.
so there, just some cleanup, ideally it's zero. It's like, again, they tell us how much they're gonna charge, we charge the residents for it, and then we get that money back, so.
So maybe I misunderstand then. How much was our deficit last year?
The 1,500, wasn't it?
That's projected for next year.
That's for next year, like when,
Didn't you say 4,000 last year and like 20,000 the year
I think,
before?
so 24, it was, revenue was 372,975, and then expenditures were 376,500.
Okay.
So, and again, this, just based on the math John sent me on this,
Right.
so.
So
That's not bad, I thought.
if this could, do you need anything else about
Okay.
solid waste today? Okay, let's move on to the general fund. We're on revenue. I'm gonna drop a bunch of things at you because I think they can all be answered, or many of them could be answered as a group. Trailer park fees, delinquent tax penalties, property tax admin fee, electric permits, building permits, rental registrations, business registrations. Those are all things that went up along with, next page, rental inspection fees, DPW cost recovery, fire, ALS cost recovery, fire training revenue, plan fee reimbursement, fines, forfeits, and penalties, interest, settlements and recoveries. Oh, that one went down. So before that, a lot of those things probably have something in common. Like, do we have more inspectors out there saying, hey, up, what's happening here?
Fees.
We've updated our fees. The fees had not been updated
Oh,
for many years.
Increase the fees, that's right.
This
okay.
council updated the fee schedule, so,
Increase the fees.
Yep.
There we go. Okay, so that's good stuff.
yeah.
Now, we had a couple of things that went down. Well, the state share, that went down.
And again,
That's the state balancing their own budget,
State
using
budget.
their state revenue share.
Yeah.
So,
There's nothing we can do about that. That's just a crappy thing that the state share and state revenue sales, those both went down 20 grand.
Yeah,
20 grand
the only thing we can do about that again is if,
So this is a $40,000 loss from state share and state share revenue sales. Just wanted to point that out. That needs to be heard.
and again, that's the state balancing their own budget using what, how they provide money to us, and so, let
But
me,
even with that 40,000 down from the state, our revenue still went up 200-something thousand? Am I mathing? I don't math well in my brain, you guys. We went up from
Okay, the 3.9 to the 4.2.
3.9 to the 4.2, yeah.
Well, and I know, we talked about this, gosh, probably 3 years ago, where we were talking about the state share revenue that, yeah, like after like 08, 09, like it just took a cliff dive and like communities are no longer getting what we used to
Yeah.
essentially get historically.
it's gonna continue to go down, I believe, too. As the federal government and the state government, so there's constitutional payments, and then there's statutory payments that are within their constitutional payments. So when we're talking about state revenue share, mostly we're talking about the 6% sales tax that people have. So it's constitutional payments are, this is complicated, of that 6%, it's 15% of that 6%, no, 50% of 4% of that 6% of sales tax collection is done by a per capita basis, using our population as a factor of how they give us the money. While the statutory payments are like what the legislation will give us based on what our local needs are. And that's where they take off the money, because when the state is looking, hey, we have to balance our budget, they will take down those statutory payments based on their legislation. So that's where we are seeing the biggest decrease. It's complicated. I think they do it very complicated on purpose. So,
Well, great job to the staff for increasing the fee schedule because our revenue still went up almost $300,000 even though we lost $40,000 from the state.
One item missing is we had talked today about potential sharing of expenses with the DDA.
yep, so those are ones that we still need to talk. There's several expenses on the DDA that we're negotiating right now. We're in the process of starting to negotiate as far as how are we accurately, because we want to accurately collect back money when we do road closures for them, when the DPW is doing work in their area, when police is operating there, when fire is in the area. We want to make sure that we have it in a joint resolution between both bodies, our council and the DDA, that says this is how we are going to collect that money back. That's part of it. That's part of those things that we haven't figured out, and that might be a budget amendment depending on how long it takes us all to do it because we want to make sure both sides, legal, signs off of it. And then the other part of that, which we haven't drafted up yet, we've kind of started, but is their use of this space here, because if they're a separate entity, like they want to be, they will have to pay rent. Essentially, they have to pay rent, they have to pay for supplies, all of those other things, which hasn't really been articulated out like in a specific contract. So we need to do a contract with them that says, this is your monthly rent, this is, for, clerk services that you're getting, for your paychecks, for we have to define all those things. Since it's never been done before, we're kind of slowly going through that process of what does that look like. But this is something that many other municipalities do. I've worked in a municipality where we had that kind of agreement before, so it's not unheard of to do those things.
Something else, WODA, because
And-
of the potential of
Yep.
getting some more.
And WODA, we are also doing similar with WODA right now, and they're in agreement to pay for their utilities, the space that they utilize, all that. That has never been done before, but WODA has agreed to do it. We're just working out what that looks like. So those are additional streams of revenue that we haven't fleshed out yet, but we have the parties that are in agreement to it. I don't want to project out revenue that we don't have a contract for yet, because I don't want us to bank on things that we don't, on all of these, I've tried to be very, on the expenditure side, I want to overestimate the expenditures because I want us to come under those. And on the revenues, I've underestimated revenues because I would much rather have us have a flush fund balance at the end of the year rather than us outpacing our expenditures because we didn't project out, so.
Something else we're looking into too, I just wanna, say is, so like you see where it says the fire cost recovery, it was only 1,500 and Tim's leaving it at 1,500. The fire department has billed out over $10,000 in cost recovery. So what we do is we only, right here, again, as Tim was saying, we only book what's taken in. Well, I got with Tessa and, we have now solidified a, collection agency. So this, even though the collection agency will take a percentage, but it's still will get something back. We should be able to get something back once they go after the collection agency will go after the people that haven't paid.
Council, any further questions on the revenue?
One other item, for mobile home communities, do we charge or do they pay a rental fee inspections every time they rent out the house?
So that is something that we've just recently, I've had several discussions with my building inspector because they had previously never done rental inspections for mobile home units, but they still they should be required to do if they're renting it out. Most communities have a rule that you can't rent out mobile homes or modular housing units, that they have to be sold, they can't be rented out. We don't necessarily have that within our ordinance, so people can rent them, but they need to follow our same inspections. So Kurt and I and Chief Watson as well, we've been talking about, we have to build out that program because we've not done them in the past, but they are gonna have to start doing the rental inspections. So we're gonna see an increase on, the recovery, not only our program's gonna get bigger, because we're gonna have
Talk to Highland.
we're gonna have several other, homes that we're gonna have to do inspections on, but Kurt is aware of it, and they're working all that.
How is that fundamentally different than what we currently do with rentals?
it just increases our workload because it's never been done before. So like a lot of the rentals, it's just, we're in maintenance mode for it, but we have to build a new program, and also there's different requirements for modular homes than there are for, you know, a loft bedroom in the downtown. So there are different, like, you know, fire requirements and things, so not that it's different as far as how we go about it, but there are different requirements that they need to do. Now luckily, Assistant Chief Nishki's wife has worked her career in this environment, so she's actually helping him and us develop this program within like how to do these inspections for modular homes, so.
And
But-
business registrations.
And business registration for short-term rentals,
No,
you're talking about?
just business
Oh,
registrations.
in general, yeah.
In general, so our ordinance says that they're supposed to each year pay a fee for business registrations, and we have not been doing that historically, so, I put together a packet and letters, and so we're gonna start sending those out.
Yeah, we've, across the board, I mean, as you've already seen, probably if you're looking at activity, we've outpaced some of the things that we even projected out. And we're gonna get more. We've got Lisa Breakaboni over here doing fee collection. And so,
Second day, right?
but it's, you know, again, we're not necessarily doing it to make money, but we're doing it to accurately cover our costs, which our costs weren't covered before. And so that's the reason we were at a deficit, so.
That was in the ordinance, that there should be a yearly renewal fee for a business?
Yeah, 110, I believe. It's 110 or 118 in our,
Because I thought we just approved a fee for that too, didn't we?
that was for short-term rentals.
But there was also, we took on the fee schedule, we took off, for new business, and then again, because this is now annually instead of just for new business.
Just quick question for donations and other, so we had 49,000 last year and we're not expecting any, what was that donation? Was that for the fire truck?
Let me look at what that one actually was. Again, for donations and grants, of course I'm expecting more, you know, I'm hoping for grants. I have many grants out there, but I'm not gonna put them down as expected revenue unless I have it like locked in. And so I don't wanna spend money that we don't have, and I don't wanna be unrealistic. So if I get a grant for $2 million for lead line service replacement, yeah, that's great, and then we can put it in there and it's gonna help us out with that, but I'm not going to, you know, we have to do these projections based on what we know is gonna come in, not what we're hoping,
Okay,
so.
so do we know what that 49,000?
Yeah, let me look at what it was for. What line is that? That is.
101-000-675.005.
Was that the
Line
dispensary?
54.
He needs to talk about the line up there in his.
Oh, yeah.
I told me if he
I
could
don't have
include,
that here.
I know, I said, could you include the line numbers on ours next time?
A generator, donation or something, I think, believe for a generator and some, and a couple other things, I believe,
675,005.
too.
Okay. I just wondered, I know we talked about the fire truck and like how that money was donated, so I wonder if that was.
All right,
that was-
so, okay, so here are the donations for that. That were, Stash was, there was a $10,000 donation. There was actually two $10,000 donations. Actually, there was three $10,000.
Stash is the dispensary.
That's the $30,000 that they put in, no,
There's 5.
yeah, nope, as I'm going down, I'm seeing more and more. All right, there was 5 of them that were, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5 $10,000 donations in that. There's also some expenditures in this, that's why it's not, an activity. There was, some holidays donations for hot dogs, which you know about. And, yeah, so the total of the credits versus debits on that, we had, 50,500 with the expenditures on this line as, so some of them were like the recovering of the cost of, like the hot dogs when we purchased them and things like that. Yeah, exactly.
Hot dogs.
I do have a question for Lisa afterwards about, just remind, if Lisa can just put a note that there's some high visibility vests on this line too, that I wanna see where if that was a purchase or, anyways, we can talk about that later.
Council, any further questions? Revenue? Okay, moving on. Let's go to major roads.
All right, major roads we did last week.
Yep, we did all of those.
Yeah, we should be on, now, actually, that's all of the expenditures revenues. Now we're gonna go on to just our debt service review, so that's our If you go to your, like these are like bond payments and such. And so in your packet, the ones that look like this, the general obligation debts, the water sewer debts, all of
But I
those.
think you're missing, I think what April was saying is you have major roads, local roads, solid
revenues
waste, those are
part.
all the revenues.
Oh, revenues, I'm sorry, yeah. Let's continue on revenues, because we didn't do all the revenues.
Sorry,
was
I
like-
did say that was enough for revenues, so that was my bad, okay.
All right, so,
Council revenues for major local roads, solid waste, sewer, and water. Any further questions?
again, these are just projections based on, what we're looking at.
Could you talk briefly about what Metro Act fees are?
All right.
We don't receive them at all.
So the Metro Act, and Lisa, if you know better than I wish Chiefs or Danny were here. So there was a Metro Act, I believe that is for when, like, different companies like AT&T and them are coming through, and they actually are doing, like, work within the village. There was the Metro Act that we would receive payments in advance for things like, when they were doing like right-of-way work and all of that. Let me verify that. I don't know if I'm,
I think
yeah.
the Metro Act fees, if I remember right, Brian was saying, is it
On the
used to
revenue
be
side.
something that used to be included with the Act 51 monies, and then they did away with it, and so they're no longer offering that. The state took it away. It was a state was giving us the money for it, and it's something that they no longer are funding.
So that was my understanding too, it had to do with the right-of-way, I thought.
Yeah.
And my concern was, the company, I guess we can't limit utility companies coming in to do work, but we can take bond payments ahead of time, so performance bonds or something like that. So if they don't finish the work, like we had an instance with 123net, for instance, they came through and it took them over a year, okay, just about a year, whatever it is, doesn't matter, to fix the stuff. Does that have anything to do with the fees, is my question? Because we're still having, like 123net came through last year, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it was the year before, who knows at the time, but AT&T is now doing work in the,
So they still have to give us a bond. They have to renew their bond each year. As long as they're doing work within the village, they have to renew their bond, and we keep those on file. So like, as you were saying, 123net is one of the examples, and yes, they did, because what happened is, I got a cancellation notice, and I contacted them, and I said, well, then you can't do any more work in the village, and then they said that was an error, so they sent us a new bond.
so we're actively enforcing the bonding of it.
Yes.
Perfect.
They have to have on file, they have to have an active bond.
Is there, maybe this is off, do we know if it's like $1,000, $100,000 bond?
It's like a $10,000, I believe.
That's it, eh?
It looks like these expired in 2024, but I'm still not, I haven't done much research into it
Okay.
because I've been told that it was, that they were,
I can follow up with the utilities director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
All right, should we move on to the debt services review?
One question about the sewer for the amended budget part, the $975,000 transfer from fund balance, what's that?
The sewer, where the
Yeah.
transfer from fund
I'm
balance?
sure we
The
covered
last
it in
line.
another meeting, I just
We were,
don't remember.
last year, we were transferring that from their fund balance because they had to buy that, the lift station. They were replacing the lift station, so they didn't have enough money in there, so they were transferring it from fund balance.
That's something we budget for, we have not, doesn't look like we've done it within activity yet, though. We're still,
They're still, the engineering and all
Yeah.
that, they're still in that phase. They haven't spent it yet. We haven't gotten a bill because we haven't done it yet, but they're working on it. It's in progress.
Okay,
and that's for Apollo, I believe, right? Yeah.
Yeah, power lift station, yeah.
all right, so let's move to limited tax bonds.
Lisa, are you comfortable driving for this one, for these, the bond payments and all this?
Sure, I can try my best.
Yeah.
From what I remember in my head. So this particular one, the first one, the 2015 general obligation bond, so in October of this year, we'll be making that principal and interest payment, and then that bond will be paid off.
So what's that mean to the residents then?
I can speak to that. So on finance, finance committee, we talked a little bit about this. And this is for water and sewer bond, correct?
This one is this is a general obligation limited tax bond. The next two are water, sewer, and then the third one is.
The ones that are expiring. So essentially, our original,
Is, I'm sorry, I didn't remember, but I think it's 42% major roads and 50-some% water. That's what it's a split.
The obligation one?
Yes.
This is the 2015 one, the first one.
so for the water and sewer, the original study that we saw from Plant Moran, I don't know if the numbers are gonna change, but it was something, if I recall correctly, they were advising over $20 million in spending for improvements and fixes to the current system.
Correct.
So there's gonna have to be bonds there, otherwise the system's gonna basically deteriorate and you're not gonna have a system anymore.
If you, actually, I can do this while
So you're gonna essentially be trading bonds.
we're gonna have to.
That's what I'm saying, I mean, is it gonna keep going and that we take care of that and then it's gonna be?
Yes, because it's something that we've talked about, right, that our infrastructure is
Oh,
just
no, I'm
so
not arguing that,
overrated.
but I was just curious of what, if we don't have another thing that, to go in place of that bond that we're paying off,
Would it lower
what
rates?
happens? We'll lower rates, but if we have to put something there, like, i.e. refixing the infrastructure, it's gonna cost, and then we gotta rebond that out. So where there's nothing change, it's just gonna go from
So,
paying this person.
not necessarily. So I think we'll also be proposing some changes to how water and sewer is billed out for what's now called the readiness to serve charge, or coming up. So basically, different users that put different demand on the system will be more representative of the
Well, I
actual
think that's a
charges.
good idea too.
So in theory, we haven't seen numbers yet, but you'd have to imagine the bill will shift quite a bit, because right now everyone pays the same amount no matter what you use.
I've heard a lot of people say recently that they've seen their bills decrease. I've
That
heard
would
it just-
only be based on usage then.
Usage, yeah.
I just heard it from just.
Hey, we'll take it.
That's
We'll
all
take it, thank you.
I'm just hearing it from people, my bill has decreased.
So I think that, I have a municipal analytics slide that they had up there when they were talking about it, and we're gonna talk more in depth about this. In many ways, we were waiting for, an outside analysis, to provide us just more informed data when we were talking to the finance committee about how we're gonna move forward. Again, so everyone understands, all of these debts were for previous things that already occurred, like for improvements that were done several years ago in order for us to pay for those capital improvements. If we want to continue to make capital improvements to our system that is 30 years old, or older in some areas, then we're gonna have to, as you see, we can adequately fund what our debt service costs are, but we're not gonna be able to do new capital improvements in order to fix the infrastructure on the road, to fix some of these I&I issues that we have.
So when, just to, let me maybe make it a little bit easier. So like as you saw, there was $975,000 that came out of the sewer fund to finance for the lift station. Eventually, there's gonna be no fund balance left.
Yes.
So what you're doing is you're kind of taking your savings and you're doing the capital improvements. Well, that's what we're trying to say is, if you wanna do any more capital improvements, as you saw Danny sit here last weekend and say, we have 13 lift stations and 4 of them are in, are emergent repair. So at $890,000 or $900,000 apiece, that fund balance is just gonna dwindle down. So you have to get bonds to fund to do further projects.
I know there's
Don't
certain.
keep putting stuff into the savings account, once we deplete it, then we don't have it.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I think, so there's certain contingents within the community that would say, well, just use your fund balance in order to pay for these expenses. The problem is, what happens when we have an emergency that we need to repair something like that? And if you have, Ortonville's an example of this right now, where, your checkbook's depleted. And if you need to actually pay for any kind of expenses, then, the bond process isn't a quick process. So if we had an emergency, we have our SCADA system at the wastewater treatment plant's not working, we have to replace it. We have Morrison Street pump station go down, we have to do $100,000 million repair. If we don't have that money to make that repair right then it might, what we could do in maybe a month is gonna take 6 months to get people water and sewer at their properties. So you have to maintain a fund balance in order to do some of these emergency repairs.
Well, it's just a smaller subsection of what we've dealt with on large as
Yeah.
a village, right? We were continually spending our savings as a village instead of bonding some of these
Yeah.
things out, yeah.
And with the infrastructure getting older and older and older, again, it only lasts so long. Now
Yep.
you have to at some point start replacing things because again, it's just gonna be in disrepair.
And this is
It's just
true
like
for
your
our,
roof on your house, it's a 20-year roof, or whatever your shingles might be, 25 years. These initial ones went out in 2015, we're there, it has to be replaced.
And I think also, if I remember correctly, the rates that we're actually charging for bonds aren't even covering all the bonds.
Correct.
Right.
So
It was
we're
never
taking,
charged.
so we're not taking enough for the bond payments to begin with, so the rates are covering it, so.
and that's one thing, as we talk about the ready to serve charge and stuff, because when we were discussing, I know that there's people think, hey, well, we've paid off this bond, or we're paying off this bond, the rate should drop. Well, the rates are set in the totality of the bonds for the entire period, not for, hey, you've paid off this bond, this one drops off, or this. It's supposed to pay over the lifespan of all of our bonds, so that's what it's the payments, my understanding, are based upon that.
One other item, if we're ready to move on. Still in sewer, water and sewer. Has municipal analytics weighed in anything on about the pilot payments, payment in lieu of taxes for our water and sewer?
And during initial conversations, when we discussed it, he was not a fan. He thought there were other options that would be a better way to move forward with getting similar reimbursements. But I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly what those were. I would rather him, when he comes to talk to Finance Committee, I'd rather just have those direct conversations with him. We did discuss pilot,
Okay.
but his
He's
initial.
thinking about it, though, there's still,
Yeah, his initial reaction was, I think there's better ways to move forward other than pilot, so,
perfect.
yeah.
So that first one is zeroed out after the October 1st interest payment. That was for the general obligation limited tax bond. The next one is zeroed out after the October 1st 27 payment. That's for the water supply revenue refunding bond. And then the next one, the wastewater is zeroed out after the interest payment on October 1st, or was zeroed out
He has already paid out.
after 25. So I think we can combine those while we talk about them. Anything else that council has questions about, comments?
Couldn't some of those bonds now be transferred into repairing roads?
What's that?
No, different funds.
That would be, yeah, your local road.
You still gotta stay with water.
You would need a different bond for the roads.
Yeah.
It's-
Or roads, or we could either do bonding out for that, or you could do like a roads millage and have people vote on that. you
I'm
know.
just saying if if one of these bonds paid off with like $4.1 million, we're done with now, could we bond that out to road, or do we still have to use that as a water bond?
Well, what we're saying is we
It
still
would be a new bond.
need that for future infrastructure needs, like when Roe gave us our report saying, it's like Jim said, roughly $20 million to do this road, North Road, a pump station, and I think there's another road.
No, I think Plant Moran was saying that we needed $20 million
maybe it's Plant
just
Moran.
for water sewer.
Right,
So even though 4 million is coming off of here, you still need 20 million
Oh,
to
I
do
know, I
water.
understand, I know, I wanted to make sure that we were,
You can't spend water sewer money on road.
Yeah.
And that figure, just so,
They're not saying we can't do a bond for roads.
I'm just saying, we can reopen the bond back up for the water.
You
It
can't
would not be
reopen
reopening
anything
the same bond. It would be getting a
It'd be a
new
different
bond.
one.
Well, that's what I meant by
Yeah.
reopening.
Because
I'm
we're paying
following
back
you.
money we already
And
received.
our options here with these ones, it sounds like, is continue the bonds or allow the system to fail and kick the can down the road.
No,
So
I don't
that's-
wanna do that, I think we do what you said.
we will have a discussion too about what bonds to do. So it's not gonna be, Plant Moran can come back and say, in a perfect world, this is what you need. And we might say, well, this isn't a perfect world, and that's not what we're gonna do.
Well, it won't be Plant Moran
It
anymore.
won't be, yeah.
Because we kicked the can down the
Never
road.
mind.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you.
Both have different rates and things of whatever,
Yes.
like.
Then you got the schedule of principal and interest requirements. Any questions, comments?
Well, what was the capital improvement on that bond that we did?
That 2021,
Yeah,
before my time, so.
I just don't remember what we
I
did.
wanna say that was, I just wanna say that was a refinancing of a bond.
2021.
Was that
21,
Broad
2021
Broad
was a
Street?
refinancing.
Let me look at
Okay.
the,
Do you remember?
I have,
Rates were low at
I
that time.
got the
took a bond to lower.
Tim, did you want to speak on the special assessment?
Sure. You know, I think that we saw, actually, let's go back to our municipal analytics side. All right. We saw this on Tuesday. We didn't talk about it too much, but just, I think it's important for us to look at, you know, what would have happened if we didn't do the special assessment last year, like on the screen, all right? We would have bottomed out this year and, you know, but I think an important thing for us to look at is,
We need to get you a pointer.
that's all right. I can be loud too. So that, the amount that we did on the special assessment, all right, this is, you know, our target fund balance minimum, we're kind of right underneath it. What this tells me is the way that we did, obviously we didn't want to be there, but the amount that we did was kind of almost exactly
When
where.
you say there is without the special
That's without the
assessment.
special assessment. This is where we would be, like, right now, you know, obviously, just, you know, going down. So this is where we are right now with the special assessment, and we're just right under where we want to be with fund balance minimums. All right, this is if we continued on the special assessment amount, or got the same amount of revenue another way, which is ideal. So we're okay. We've bought ourselves breathing room. Obviously, if we were way above our target fund balance minimum, we'd be taking too much in, like we'd be taking more than is needed. Obviously, our expenditures could increase, we'd get additional services, but this is just keeping us like, you know, where we need to be. So if we, you know, projected out, we didn't have big expenditures, we didn't have anything. Basically, that bought us breathing room from getting on to 2037. Our current way that we had done the special assessment was for a 5-year period. Until we make different changes in revenue, if we got rid of the special assessment, we'd be right back where we were, where we would have been without it. I think it's obvious that we have to maintain it for the foreseeable period until we have another way to make up the difference in revenue, or else we're cutting services, whether it's
Can't we
police,
do the
fire.
Headley Road back?
What's that?
Can't we do the Headley Road back, whatever it is?
We can do a Headley override.
Override.
And that would reset our, it would go up to a vote from the people, and it would reset our millage rate to, where we started, which was 20 mils. We wouldn't have to charge 20 mils, but it would be the maximum that we could. And that we'd look at it, and we would say, all right, based on this, rather than, you know, being at, this next year, 10.56, whatever the number will be, we would be at 14. And it's essentially the same thing.
Shannon and I were having a discussion about that the other day. Does anyone on council feel like we have the trust from the public to manage our money with a Headley rollback, or a Headley override?
So the difference with the special assessment is this special assessment is for police and fire.
Yep.
That money can only be spent on police and fire. We can't say, oh, we need it for water sewer, oh, I need this instead for roads. It can only be spent for police and fire. With a Headley rollback, it does change our millage rate, which then opens up money that can be spent in other ways, but
Yeah, and I'm gonna go back to my seat so I can get the mic.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
no, I think, yeah, again, I think that is what the people have been asking for, right? Is for them to be able to make the choice, right?
what the heck
And so I guess that will be up to them on whether they want a community that thrives or that collapses.
I mean, I mean, if it was me, I'd say we told them we'd look into it in a year, which is about what we gotta do now, and we say, okay, we put it to a vote.
Well, and so I think
Don't
that
approve
that's,
it, then we gotta go back for special assessment.
I don't think, we have, currently, we're gonna have to continue on the special assessment. Like, we have to, in my opinion, we're gonna have to continue to do this until we make up another decision. So if we do a Headley override or something like that, if we're able to get approval of that, then we can remove the special assessment and go from there. Right now, we don't have that. If I'm speaking completely candidly, I think, and you know, when we asked if we had trust in the community, you know, James is back there and he, and so I truly think that you know, as we're looking at with municipal analytics, there's other ways that we're gonna be able to increase money or revenues and such. Again, I think, you know, I talk about cityhood a lot. I think that is in ways that accomplishes what a Headley override would do, but it also allows us additional revenue streams. It fixes a lot of things for us. I think if we were to work hard on a Headley override, by the reaction that I just got there, and I think that first of all, I think it's doomed to fail, and I think that it also would remove any political capital we would have in promoting something like cityhood or something like that. So, I do think it needs to go up to a vote of the people. I think that it needs to. I think that we're still in like the emergency mode right now, where we're keeping our head above water. This is what keeps our head above water. As we move forward, we need to look at, all right, proposing cityhood, that needs to go through its whole processes. But Jim, yeah.
Well, I was just wondering how this is I was mimicking to myself, preparing the question, so I wasn't trying to interrupt you there, but all right, okay. The township does a special assessment too, so it's not unheard of. I mean, they do one for public safety.
And theirs is more than ours.
Yeah.
More than ours is.
For just fire, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
And
we,
they do review it, sorry, they review it every year just as we would.
Yeah.
And that is so you're not collecting more than you need. There are safe balances.
Right.
yeah, I don't have anything against keeping the public safety special assessment, going after cityhood. Headley override's an option, but I also agree that I think it's doomed to fail as well. But we have another option, because the other big thing that needs to be taken care of is the roads. So there's bonding or there's a millage, right? Now, how does bonding work? Is that a vote, or is that like of the people or a vote of the council?
I mean, you could go about it a couple different ways. So, usually it would be a vote of the council, but there could be,
I think all the other bonds here have been
council approved, yeah.
over the years.
Yeah.
Been approved through council.
Madam President, I hate to stop real quick, but I wanna go back to the Headley and the
Yeah.
special assessment thing. Cause we did make a promise to our citizens that we would look into it each year. And I mean, we're doomed to fail, yes, but that projection is running all the way up to 2047.
Yeah, our special assessment district's only for 5 years.
I wanna
regardless,
make sure
so.
that our citizens know, our residents know that we're not gonna try to, overextend what we did offer already, what we did.
I think the difference between Headley and a Headley override and the cityhood thing, truthfully for me, is because a Headley override would allow us to reset things, but it wouldn't allow us for additional streams of income that would be able to have us lower the taxes for residents. The idea for us is to lower their taxes overall, to create more options for revenue. If we can do that, if a Headley override's not going to fix anything, I mean, it will fix things as far as how much we can bring in to cover for those services, but it doesn't fix things for our residents. The cityhood thing actually addresses that, where it allows us to get more revenue in from not only having a increased taxable value from surrounding areas, and it increases our state revenue sharing, all these other things. It allows us to essentially lower the tax responsibility for our residents, and that's the idea of what to do. A Headley override would allow us to. All that does is allow us to charge more, and that's not the idea. Is we don't want to have to charge more. We want to be able to get more revenue in from other means that we can cover the expenses for them, so that is why I believe us putting our energy into cityhood is a lot better for our residents than putting it all into a Headley override. Now, could we go for a Headley override? Of course we could. I mean, that's something. If that's the direction council wants to go, that's fine. I do not think that's in the best interest of our residents over a long-term period. I just think that because we're gonna just have to charge higher taxes, and that's not what we wanna do. We wanna be able to lower taxes, but increase services, and the only way we're gonna do that is by changing the way we do things.
Okay, and what's your opinion on roads?
I have one more thing. For me, I'm in disagreement on that process. It's, from my understanding of it, we're just pushing our problems onto a bigger population going for cityhood.
Why do you feel that?
Not only are we involving our citizens, but now we're adding all those additional taxes onto the people that get brought in.
I feel like we're giving those people who are on the border services, and we'd have a budget that's completely manageable.
They also get a chance to vote, so they can choose that.
Yeah.
Nobody is taking away their right to vote on this.
I mean, right now, the
It's
people.
lobbed up for them to make a decision. Do they want police and fire and those kind of different DPWs and some differences? And
'Cause
they
some might
can
not
vote
care.
it now.
Right.
They can
Yeah, cause right now they only get what, the state
I do
police.
have a question, going
Yeah.
back to major streets and millages. Is being able to put forth a road millage something that could happen in the next few months for like a November election? What is the timeline for a millage? Because I do think that is something the voters should vote on, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's send it out to our neighbors, do we wanna fix these streets? We don't have the money to fix them right now, but if we did do a millage of some sort and they wanna vote on it, can we make that in an election time?
I have, let me grab from my office, I have the election, the timetables.
Okay,
I mean, this is, I don't know, let me grab this.
sorry.
Well, and I'll add the reminder for those watching that there's never been a line item for bigger road repairs. There's been a line item to, do hot and cold patching, and that's it. So this is something we could have added to our savings over the time, but we don't have one, so we just have to correct course now. One way or the other, or, sinkholes, I don't know.
Right,
You know,
the
too many
road
cars they
issues
can
are not
fit
going
all
away.
over the cars.
This is not an issue that's going away, yeah.
We'll just park your car in one
Because
sinkhole.
we have to
right
have,
now and drive around.
there's different timelines for, when you need like different ballot language on and all the.
And sinkholes is not fear mongering. There is a sinkhole by Johnny's Auto Body Garage. That's the only one that I've been made aware of so far.
Oh,
But if
there's a
there's,
couple of them.
yeah, I'm sure if there's one, there's more. So cones can only handle sinkholes for so long.
Till they fall in.
There's 20 pages of deadlines up here, so it's probably gonna take me a little bit
Oh,
of
yes,
time.
I did like that post, I don't know where it was
I can
at.
hand this over to one of the clerks in the room.
Somebody went through and put cones in all the potholes. It was just like, that was like a funny post. There was nothing around here.
Yeah.
I was like, man, if they did that here, we wouldn't have enough cones.
I don't think well, there might be one of us who live on a road that isn't crumbling, so it's not as if we don't live in this.
Unfortunately, I think I'm the only one.
Your road isn't crumbling?
Airport's
What kind of
okay.
special treatment do you get?
Jim's fine too, in that
Sorry.
DDA
What?
district house.
I mean, I got some tracks, but I ain't rumbling.
Wow.
Ritzy, Saginaw.
I have to drive down Oakland or North. Either way I go like this.
Sherman Street
I'm not joking.
resident.
Do you know how many times I've been pulled over?
Well, now you guys can, when they don't put your garbage cans out on the curbway, they leave them in the roadway, now you can dodge potholes and garbage
Yeah.
cans.
I just ran
Listen,
right off
throw
the
the
road.
garbage cans into the pothole.
That's what I thought he was going, just hold it.
Knock them over.
Yeah, it's bad.
Take you back to your police, driving training?
There you go.
I always said my road's good because the sewer treatment plant's on the end of it, and they wanna make sure the crap goes away.
The Jeep Wrangler's not looking like a bad investment right now.
Oh, no.
Though he drives a little car.
So, I'm sorry, Thomas, I've forgotten. What are we looking for right now?
Ballot language with timelines.
Oh, got it,
Just see
the
if we
dates.
can do that.
Right.
If you don't,
Yep.
if anyone has questions about other stuff, we can.
I think this is.
I do like the way you
I mean,
put that
honestly,
together,
roads are a
how
big
you said
deal.
for us to do the millage on the road. I think that'd be better than trying to head the road back or something like that, because I think
Right,
we
yeah.
get better
Daniel,
response.
just also too, for if we do a millage on streets, it can only be spent on streets. It's not
Exactly, I
something
mean-
that we can say like, oh, let's,
And those are two different problems. We're talking there's two different conversations. A Headley rollback takes care of the general fund considerations
Right,
we have. Road millage is only used for road millage. There's it doesn't fix our police fire service issues and things we have. All it would be is additional taxes residents are paying for, for all these other things, but doesn't fix our.
It's basically, if we had the rollback at let's say, like you had said, 14 mills, whatever it is, we could special assessment the same way, that way it goes to a
With our
dedicated
special
thing.
assessment, we're currently collecting 14 mills, so that.
No, not for. Oh, yeah, okay, total.
Yeah, total.
Not through special assessment.
I was just picking
Yeah,
numbers
because
out of my head.
it's whatever, it's 4.1 for the special assessment, and then
11 for the regular mills, and then it's 11.
it's just under 11.
I was just,
No, right now, this past year, people paid on their taxes 11.3254.
Okay,
Then they paid 4 for the special
right,
assessment.
so
This
14.
year- Yeah, this year it's gonna be
10 point,
something,
right.
and then it's gonna be 4.
I was just, all I was trying to say is if we did, I just had to roll it back just because I've heard it before. I wanted to make sure that we were,
So we're still,
I think a break would be good.
we're still, Daniel,
I didn't mean to.
we're still recording. Let's take a break. We're on break. We are live.
Mr.
So-
Costa's in the restroom, just so you know.
Okay, we're live. Courses of action, we've kind of been discussing that. Councilman Ryan saw that if we wanted to consider a millage, we have to, for the November ballot, we'd have to have the submission in by August 11th. If we wanted to do the primary, it would have to be in by April 28th, so that's just not gonna happen. But yeah, we can look at, and that's fine. We need time to study this anyways.
We would wanna do the November election, so it wouldn't,
Yeah.
have additional costs for us to run the election stuff. So
Yeah.
if we do it in,
Yeah, this saves a lot of money.
The most people who tend to come out to vote. I would-
Yeah, I think so too. We want more people to be able to go there.
Would
Yeah.
it, if they went on the primary, would it, if they voted, if it passed, it would be?
It would still pass, yeah.
Oh.
I think,
no,
do you have to have a certain percentage of the population show up to vote for it to count? Because I know that's how,
That'd be one of the things to research for.
No, I
but,
think it
well,
should
we're
go.
not worried about that because it's gonna be at the November one anyways,
yeah.
I was
so.
just asking, just so people that would be known. would know.
Okay, any final questions, gang? Okay, this meeting's adjourned. Bye.
I-